Good evening, everybody. This is episode 5 of Flippin Tin. And as always, I'm Jake with Longleaf Reptilia.
And I am Sky of Hail the Scales and Peach Throat Passion. We are stoked to be back, you guys. How's everyone doing tonight?
Yeah, hope everyone's doing well. We already got Adam Ivory in the chat and Sean McCarthy. What's going on, guys?
And a
Uh,
little earlier than normal tonight, just because we're dealing with a special guest on a different
yes,
time frame. So
yes,
we're
very,
bound
very
we're
special.
beat bopping our schedule around for everyone else.
Yeah, we're very, very excited for this one. This one's going to be, I've been looking forward to this one specifically whenever we've initially talked about this
Oh
whole
yeah, we've
thing.
already
So,
talked about this episode a bunch just between me and you, so we're both super stoked.
yeah, so it's going to be a good one for sure. And so we're pumped about that. And, but before we jump into this, yeah, again, apologize. It's a little early, but that's all right. We're just happy to get this going. And, so, just a little housekeeping. Y'all remember we got 3 days left on the merch. So, if you need a hat or a shirt, make sure to message the page. If you have not told us exactly what you need as far as a hat or a shirt and you have not submitted payment, then I don't have you written down. So, anybody who's kind of been open ended about it. I'll double check with some of y'all if I don't hear from you. But other than that, just make sure if you are wanting something to hit us up 31st by the 31st. We're going to be calling it then. I believe Smitty already ordered some of the hats for us because he was already doing an order. So I sent him what we had, got everything back, and he didn't tell me anything was out of stock. So anybody that had their first choice hat, I believe, got it. At least
Sweet.
I haven't heard otherwise. So that's awesome. Definitely let us know what's going on. Yep. And he said, yep, started working on them today. So that's awesome.
Sweet.
More
Smitty's the man.
people popping in the chat. What's
We
up,
got
Joe?
Joe, Jack, Robert. How's
Smitty.
everyone doing?
Hope everybody's happy to be here, and you guys definitely will not regret being in this one today.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack. Haircuts for both of us this weekend.
Trying to look professional, okay?
Yeah, Sky did it first. I wasn't trying to copy him, but then I saw some pictures of us from our trip
Tally.
last weekend, and I was like, "Oh God, no! It's time. It's bad." So,
I just couldn't work without wearing a headband or a hat. And even after I got home, it's like I'm wearing a hat until I go to bed because
yeah,
I got hair in my face and it was just
yeah.
too much.
No, I
Too
did.
much.
I was the same way, but I always wear a hat anyway, so it didn't really matter to me. But my hair's too stringy and fine to get too long, or else it just looks like shit. So it was time. But yeah, we're both tightened up today. Um, so yeah. And so we didn't have any write-ins really for the challenge 2 weeks ago, which was herp a new area, which that's fine, I guess, if you're lame. You didn't get into any new areas, so it is what it is. Me and Sky both got into new areas because we at least are going to take our challenges seriously.
Yeah.
But we did have one write-in from our buddy across the pond, Ben Bailey of Rural Reptiles. Sky, did you have that pulled up?
Yes, I do. So he says, "Hey guys, I shared with you my goal of finding some adders last Friday, and I managed to find some! Exclamation point. Incredible being able to watch them, and it was right on top of the cliff face, overlooking the sea just a couple miles away from home. That's stoke worthy.
Absolutely.
Along with finding both of our lizard species we have here in part of the country. So not only did he get to find his main target, which is probably the apex predator in that area, he got to find the prey, both species. So that's pretty cool. Got to get an observation of the prey and the predator, and the pictures that he sent into the adders. I don't know if you could pull it up. I guess because you're not really prepared for it, but
I
the
might be
adder
able to do it real
pictures
quick.
that he sent, I don't know what setup he's using for a camera, if this was on a legit setup or not, but this adder has some of the brightest yellows I've seen from adder pictures. I mean, I'm no adder professional, but I got a couple buddies across the pond, and my buddy Aiden, he's always sending me pictures of his adders that he finds, and this one is incredibly yellow. I don't know if it's maybe just a different subspecies of adder that than what my buddy's finding, but very, very striking yellow with the beautiful zipper pattern, and it looks like there's a fine red outline on the outside of the whole zipper pattern and the little speckles on it. So just super pretty. He's got it perched up in a couple positions and then laid out in the leaf litter where it just blends in perfectly. Such an awesome species of snake. I would definitely love to get over there and find them someday. And clearly he's out there doing his thing first thing in spring, already getting it done. He made a prediction and he got it
Yep.
done. So goal achieved. Good job, brother. We appreciate you writing in and sharing. And those are some awesome pictures. I really enjoyed looking at them.
Yeah.
So
And I would share them because we did figure out the screen sharing thing. But apparently, my Instagram on my laptop is not logged into the Flippin Tin
oh yeah,
page
yeah.
as well. I thought I would just be able to switch, but apparently that's not the case. So I'm gonna have to deal with that later. So we won't be able to pull those up, but in the future we will be doing that when people send us pictures. We also wanted to give a shout out to our boy Billy Jenkins because he found a absolutely bad ass cottonmouth
Beautiful.
last week. It was either over the
It was,
weekend or last week,
yeah,
and
I
it
think it
was
was over the
uh,
weekend or something, or Sunday or
yeah,
something.
it was just
It
absolute.
I before the we started the show, we were talking about bringing it up, and I was joking with Jake that it looked like a coppermouth because of it looked like a hybrid of a copperhead and a cottonmouth. The pattern and the colors just so bright and striking. It almost looked like it had copperhead colors with a cottonmouth pattern and body and everything. Super awesome find for Billy. He's been racking up some good finds this year, so that's
Yeah,
super stoked for him. Keep
yeah,
keep it up, Jenkins. We want more. Write us in. Send it all to the page, buddy.
yeah. I don't know why you didn't send us that cottonmouth, man. That would have been awesome, but that's all right. Just glad we're getting out. Glad other people are getting out. It seems like we're kind of getting some people to get out there, getting excited about herping, so that's always good. But speaking of our challenge last week or 2 weeks ago, it was get to a new area, and Sky and I both did that locally as well as in a different state. So that was really cool. We'll talk about that for a minute. I had been scoping out some new roads around here, and then we put out the challenge 2 weeks ago. And that weekend, I actually went to one of the roads. And it's funny because I've seen this road for several years. I've always seen it, but it's always been on my way to a WMA that I visit. And I've always seen it and been like, I wonder what's back there because I'd never really been back there. It's kind of in the backwoods, and then there was another road that was kind of across the street or across the highway. Really, you got to take Highway 17 to get there. And so I want to check out both these areas, and there's boat landings and stuff. So I thought about going over there to see if I couldn't find rainbow snakes or something. Ended up not being great habitat for rainbows. So I checked out the first road that didn't end up being as good, a little bit more high traffic, but I did find an area that was a dirt road, a lot of longleaf pines, fresh burns. You can't, it's private property on both sides of the road, so you can't walk the burns or anything like that. But the dirt road heading to this boat landing looks really, really prime for things like pine snakes, possibly eastern diamondbacks. I don't know. But pine snakes, hog noses, stuff like that, kind of sandhilly area. Really, really nice looking. So I'll definitely have to check that out again. So I cruised around that road and didn't find anything. Went to the boat landing, and then I went down a dirt road that connected to kind of off that road that led to the highway again. Found a really big banded, not really big, but I found a pretty good sized adult banded water snake out there, which was awesome. That was my
Beautiful
first find.
specimen, man.
That
Beautiful
wasn't yesterday.
specimen.
That
Oh,
was 2 weeks ago when I first looked
okay.
at these. Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't remember if you went. I sent y'all the picture of the one in the water to where it would look kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah,
pool in the
yeah,
puddle.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that day. I was 2 weekends ago, I believe, and so that was really cool. And then I went across the street to this other road that I'd always paid attention to, And down there, I found a couple DORs, one garter snake, I believe, and two others, a dead Nerodia and something else. I can't remember. And then I found two live black racers. So in the back of my head, that was a lot more that road was a lot more productive, and there was a lot of wetland areas and very, very low traffic. I'm talking this was the middle of the day and I passed two cars, I think, and this was a blacktop road, and I was like, okay, I think this is really gonna provide. Like it just seemed very um it just seemed very productive. Sorry, somebody texted me about something. I don't know who the number was. Um so it seemed very promising and I definitely wanted to go back. So like we said last weekend, we were in Tallahassee visiting Harry Claiborne, so I didn't get to go. But yesterday, it pretty much rained all day. Weather warmed up pretty good, low 70s, and I was like, I had some time. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out to this road and see what's going on. And dude, I'm so excited for this road. So first thing I hit it, I found a DOR rat snake, which sucked. But I stopped for all the DORs just to see what I was working with out there. And this rat snake was pushing probably 3 foot.
Oh, nice.
And it was, around here we have yellow rats and they all get very stripy at about the 3 foot range. This thing had solid
Saddles on it.
saddles on it. Yeah. And it was very dark colored and it had saddles. So that really intrigues me for rat snakes off this road. So really excited to hopefully find an adult alive out there.
Yeah, I'm
And
sure you will.
then yeah, I hope so. And then I found a DOR yellow rat, a DOR pinewood snake, which super sucked.
Dang.
Yeah, that was really cool, and I was really upset about that. A DOR ribbon snake and a DOR rough green. Uh,
Damn.
yeah, so there was a lot of variety out there. Like I said, it's low traffic, but I think there's not as many DOR. There was a lot because there's a lot of snakes hit the road, but they stay on the road. So I think that's what causes the DORs. But there's not. There would be more if there was more traffic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's
Again, yes,
probably high volume out there.
yeah. And so, as far as alive snakes go, I found an absolutely beautiful banded water snake. It was one of the prettiest I've seen around here.
That
It
thing
was,
looked like a mix of like a starry night and banded and
yeah,
like crisscross bands. Like,
yeah,
oh man,
beautiful
that was
bands, had almost
awesome.
this purple undertone to it. It was just an incredible animal. White speckles on it.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. And then I found a little neonate copperhead, which was absolutely gorgeous. It was a fresh one. Obviously last year's they haven't started breeding yet. So little neonate, still had the green tail and everything. So those are always really cool to see. And then I think after that is when I found some more DORs. And then on my way out, I was going a little fast because I had to get home. I had pushed my time limit a little too far. And I went across this area where there's two bodies of water on each side, like a managed wetland area. And there was this massive, I'm talking this thing was huge. It was either a really big cottonmouth or a really big banded. I'm pretty sure it was a cottonmouth, but it was just getting dark and dusk, so I couldn't get a good look. And I was going way too fast. I passed it. I slammed on the brakes. My truck slid, and I'm jumping out of the truck, grabbing my hook. I probably went 20 feet past it by the time I stopped. And I ran out and I chased it down, but I see this thing just diving off the road and it got into the grass. And I tried to look around in the grass with my headlight, but it just got away because the water was right there, and I didn't
Oh,
want to
I'm
go
sure
tromp.
it's
I didn't
gone.
want to go tromping through there because I was just in tennis shoes in case it was a cottonmouth. I didn't want to step on it.
Yeah.
So that sucked. It got away, but made me really, really excited for this road because honestly, it wasn't a great night. It was low 70s. I think by then it was right at 70 degrees. It had just rained, so I'm really, really excited for one of those like 75, 78 days to where it just rains. Like I think that road's going to be
Oh yeah, they'll all be out
super,
laying
super
on
productive. Yeah. So and it's like fresh
it.
black top. Like
Oh,
it's
nice.
not like an old road like they just paved it, so it's really easy to see stuff. So I'm super, super excited for this road once it warms up. And the weather's been so weird here. It was like
Oh,
50
it's been
degrees this
weird
morning.
everywhere. It's the El
Yeah.
Nino year, bro.
Yeah, barely broke 60 today, and so it's just weird. But I'm ready. I'm ready to hit that road.
Hell yeah.
What about you? I know you hit up some new local spots.
Yeah, me and Preston, I'll make it quick, but Preston came down and we just tried. We hit the same local spots that we normally hit, and then we tried out a couple new road cruising roads.
Nice.
But it was open in turkey season that weekend, unfortunately and fortunately. So it opened up some new areas of the WMA, and they gave us access to this 10-mile long dirt road. It was long. I think it was a little bit longer than 10 miles, but we ended up taking that. It was just perfect habitat. We lost the black racer, and the weather was just kind of off that day, kind of like what you were saying. But what we seen and like the areas that we did scout around, it looks like it's going to be super promising, and we're going to go back to that. But we just
Oh, you froze.
other than the one spot, like the road cruising spot, which took us like half a day just because it was so we just road cruised it so long and stopped so many times and we're just checking everything out. We saw tons of lizards and stuff, but we're going to go back to that and check that out. But I got a couple other spots that I got marked off on my map right now that whenever you guys come down, we're definitely hitting because it seems like they're going to be really good. And then
Awesome.
obviously we went up and hit the tally trips for the
Yeah,
weekend. So
that
that
was
was
new.
nice.
That was new for both of us. Me and
Yeah.
Smitty made the trek down from South Carolina, about a 5 hour drive. Sky rode up from his area in Florida. It was about 3 hours, wasn't it?
It was 3 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so about three and a half. That was a lot of fun. We're gonna get more into that in the next episode. But we went and visited our buddy Harry, and just as like a cliff notes for what we saw, a lot of lizards, fence lizards, skinks, stuff like that. Two do two dead. One was DOR. One was just dead in the woods. Pygmy rattlesnakes, which was very depressing.
Yeah.
But
Beautiful
it
specimens, both
happens.
of them.
Yeah, it happens. So two dead pygmies, and then we found a corn snake, an awesome banded water snake, some snapping turtles,
Snapping turtles.
snapping turtle, and then a couple box turtles too.
Dead and alive.
Yep. And then we saw some gopher tortoises, of course, and trying to think if there are any other snakes that we found. I
The
can't remember.
cottonmouth.
Cottonmouth, yeah, that's right. How could I forget the cottonmouth that guy pulled up and basically threatened
Oh
us to
my
shoot it?
God. Yeah. Wait till we tell that story.
Yeah, we'll get into more details with that. The cottonmouth was awesome. That was basically the first. That was the first snake of the day
Yeah.
when we were out there. Sky spotted it in a ditch and got it out. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
Ironically, my first cottonmouth of the year, which is weird that I had to go all the way to Florida to find my first cottonmouth. But
Right. That was my first live one. So I was
yeah,
stoked to get a live one.
yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, overall, it was a great trip. It was great to see Harry. Him and his wife were very hospitable. Me and Justin spent 2 nights there. So that we had a great time. But we'll
Great.
definitely get more into detail in that in the next episode. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for that. And yes, Jack, we were basically turtling out there at that point. And then Harry, like the couple days after we left, found a big old snapper just in his yard after a big rain.
Massive one.
So that was cool. Love snapping turtles, man. I'll geek over a snapping turtle any day of the week.
There's movement over him, but over
Yeah,
by him for sure.
they moving like crazy, man. But yeah. All right. Anything else before we introduce our guest?
No, let's get the big dog up in here. I want
Get
to
him
hear some
on.
stories and talk some questions.
Yeah. So our guest this evening is a very well-known herper, especially in the European side of things. He is very well traveled. He has found, he will correct me, I don't know if he has found all of them because of some subspecies changes and whatnot, but he has found almost every single snake and lizard in Europe. He's the wonderful, well traveled, and as our great friend Phil Wolf would say, the illustrious Nipper Reed.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we?
How
Doing
you
very
doing,
well, man. How
sir?
are you?
I'm
Thank you
very
for being
good.
here.
I am going to correct you straight away, though.
Yes, please do.
I've seen every frog, toad, salamander, newt.
Amphibians too, bro.
Yeah,
Every
everything.
herp, every herp in Europe.
No, I have 3 species left to see.
Wow. And are
Jeez.
those snakes or
I
amphibians?
have 1 snake and 2 lizards left to see,
That's
which is basically my plans for this year.
that is
That's so
absolutely
wild.
incredible, man. And I'm over here struggling to get every species in South Carolina.
That's a good challenge, though. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, it is. I've
yeah.
I've worked it down a good bit. I think I've got, I don't know. I have to look because I've got it written down of how many I need left. Let's see. Yep, way too many, but a lot.
That's cool.
I'm the same way.
I think everybody that considers themselves a field herper should try and see everything in their state.
Yeah.
That is a really, really good goal, and not easy at all. I mean,
No.
that's a big bit of work, particularly in somewhere like Florida. I
Oh,
Yeah.
mean,
totally.
I mean, forget the invasives. Just trying to see the actual normal
Oh,
species.
I'm almost better at getting my invasive list done than I am the actual native list.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. I've
That's a super challenge.
Yeah, I've got 13 species left.
Wow.
There's a few that but I have to go to upstate to get. And there's a few like eastern diamondbacks and pine snakes and southern hognoses that are very hard to come across in South Carolina. And like some of them I had found in Florida, but I hadn't found them in South Carolina, so I don't count it,
Yeah.
So it's going to be a challenge for sure, but we're working on it. Coach whips are another one. I kind of got to go out of my way. They're not in my area in Beaufort, so or at least as much. So there's a lot of work to be done, but
And it
it's
gets harder as well because
yeah,
when you first start out on a list for a state or a country, obviously every time you go on a trip, you're getting tick after tick after tick. But eventually, you're doing multiple trips to see one species which you're not seeing,
yeah.
and it's soul destroying to keep going back to the same place just for one species.
I bet.
Yeah. How long did it take you to get to where you are right now with your list?
I would say seriously, I've been doing it now for about 15 years.
Okay. Wow.
Obviously, I've always been into herping, but to suddenly think, yeah, I want to be the first English person to see everything. Yeah, seriously, about 15 years, and
Wow.
it's a lot of pennies to do it as well. That's the
Oh,
trouble.
I bet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially for, it's one thing for like for me going for a state, it's one thing because it's all drivable.
yeah,
I can get there by driving within, I can get to
yeah,
the end of the state in 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours.
yeah.
You, on the other hand, doing all of Europe.
Well,
Yeah.
you got to think. I live in England, which I'm exceptionally grateful for, obviously. Um, but we have probably, I can't think, certainly less than 20 species of herp
Okay.
for the whole country.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Um, so for me to see anything else, I have to fly, or
Sure.
I have to get a ferry. So it adds up financially, and a lot of these things, and we'll probably talk about it later, but a lot of these things are on remote islands or remote sea stacks. So you're hiring boats or multiple, you're getting a ferry to an island to then hire a fishing boat to get to a sea stack and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So
And I'm
yeah,
sure you had to fly to the area to get the ferry, and then to the ferry, you got to get the fishing boat. And then
exactly that. Yeah,
That's crazy.
well,
yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that you've accomplished all that you have as far as that goes. Because I mean, I can't imagine the feeling that you get, just knowing,
At the minute, where I am at the minute, I've got to be honest, it's quite tense because when you first start out, you've got hundreds of species to see. So every
Right.
time you go away, it's just fun. And I'm seeing that, I'm seeing that, I'm seeing
Yeah.
that. But now, I mean, I'm doing a trip in a couple of weeks back to Bulgaria. This is my 5th trip to Bulgaria now to find one species of snake.
Oh,
And
man.
I found it DOR, which is soul destroying.
Oh,
you
no.
know, I'm on various Facebook groups in Bulgarian. I don't even speak Bulgarian, but in Bulgarian, and people keep putting up pictures. Oh, I found this snake in my basement. what do I do? And I'm thinking that's the one snake that I need left in Europe, and you're moaning because it's in your basement, or like you must see all the time. You get the birders, and there's some
Yeah.
birders
Oh yeah.
just taking a shit. Oh, I've just seen a snake. Can anybody identify this? Yes, I fucking can. You know,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
so the two lizards I've got left are pretty easy. It's hard to get to where they are, but once you get to where they are, it's almost a given. They're rock lizards. If you know the habitat where they exist, a sunny day you should be lucky.
Okay.
Um, but the snake that I need, the blotch snake, which is a big rat snake, it looks almost identical to a Florida pine,
Really?
Oh
Okay.
dang.
um, and they're just so hard to find. I mean, it's like a Florida pine in terms of the habitat's very similar, and the rarity of actually finding one is very similar. And you know, for all my friends that have done this, there's three other people that have already finished the list in Europe. Two Belgians and a Dutch guy, and they all struggled on this one snake. It's so yeah, I'm pretty nervous about going back. Every time I go, you get that little sick feeling that you know I'm here for a week. I've got to find it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
What
how I
time of
feel.
year do you target to go out there?
sorry, say again.
What time of year do you target to go out there? You said you were going in a couple weeks, so
Yeah,
spring.
but I'm not really sure about if it's the same for you guys in the US. Our proper herping window is quite small, so I all the herping trips. I'm quite fortunate with work that I can sort of juggle my time off. So I spend a lot of time on holiday from April, May, and June, and then sort of August, September is too hot for most things. And then the end of October, it will start again. So I'll probably do a month at the end of October, and that'll probably be it in Europe for the year.
Okay.
It's slightly different for the amphibians. The amphibians you can start doing in February, but the actual window, particularly for the snakes, is quite small. So I tend to do trip after trip after trip at the beginning of the year, miss the summer, and then at the end of the summer, towards autumn or fall, as you call it, I'll do some more rapid trips, one after the other.
Nice. That's awesome. Not too different from what we do. I mean, we
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously have a bigger gap, but that's when we kind of hit.
Oh, you froze.
it's frozen again.
Yeah. This is the first time I've had. You having internet problems, Sky?
You guys, you froze one time for 3 seconds, and then when Nipper was talking, he froze for like 3 seconds.
Okay, yeah, we haven't. I haven't frozen. Nipper hasn't frozen for me yet, but you're freezing every now and then. So
I'm freezing.
yeah, every just for a couple seconds. That you did it once before, and then you just did it now. But it's all right. What? Just repeat what you just asked or said.
I don't even remember what I just said now.
You was telling me about the season in the US for herping.
Oh, yeah, we basically hit it kind of hard the same times that you do, even though our window is a little bit bigger, but we kind of aim to hit it around that same time.
Yeah, and that's the pressure. I mean, I want to get this list done so that I can start on my American list.
That's going to be a fun one. So, are you? Is there a certain thing in America that you're gunning for? Obviously, I know you're a Buzztail fan. You're
That is the thing. I mean, I would love to see. That's my goal. I'm never going to do all the American herps. There's too
there's
wait. It's
so
just
many.
ridiculous amounts. But I'd like to do all the venomous stuff in the US.
Okay.
I've done pretty well so far. I've only done a few trips, and I think I'm up to 13 species now of venomous.
Oh,
So
wow.
um, yeah, so that's my plan. And there's some other things that I really want to see in the States, most of which are sort of in your area. I've got to be honest, but alligator snapper is really high on my list of things to see.
Oh man, yeah.
I'm really interested in the split that they've just done. I'd really like to compare and see if I me personally thinks the split is justified or not. Um, I'd love to see. I'm a real salamander freak, and the
Nice.
Appalachian area for salamanders is just like world salamander mecca. I really, really want to go and do some stuff up there. I wanted to try and when we was on the Florida trip, I wanted to try and get up to the Panhandle and do some of the salamanders up there, but we didn't have time, unfortunately. And the hellbender is probably my number one species I want to see in the States. I've got a real thing. I've said it before. I've got a real thing about being in the water with animals. It's just like a weird. And my bucket list thing that I want to. I've swam with olms. I don't know if you know what an olm is.
An ulm?
Yeah, OLM.
No, I'm not sure what that is.
It's really cool salamander, blind salamander. They're
Okay.
about probably about 18 inches long,
Okay.
pink, no eyes. Like have you seen the Texas blind salamander?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, if you imagine a really big version of that,
Okay.
you get them in the underground streams in the caves in Slovenia.
Mhm.
And I did a trip to Slovenia. Slovenia's got some amazing herps. And that was one of the things I really wanted to see. And I was fortunate enough to get hooked up with a chap, and he took us into this cave system. We got a little rubber boat, and we're going down miles and miles underground. There's some mad shit in there, like these cave spiders and the cave millipedes, which scare the shit out of me. They've got way too many legs, and they're
Yeah,
really.
I'm with you.
I
I'm
can't
with
do
you, brother.
that. Yeah.
It's weird. People go, "How can you pick up rattlesnakes?" And you're frightened of something. They give me the creeps. I'm not going to lie.
Same.
I can't tell you.
So we're way underground, and then you come out into like an open cavern, and the water's not particularly deep, like waist high water, crystal clear, and there's these olms swimming around in there. It's just mind blowing.
Wow.
And I'm looking at the bloke, and I'm taking pictures, and I said, "Do you mind if I get out the boat?" And he's looking at me, going, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Because the water's going to be freezing." I
Yeah.
just had to get in and have a little paddle around with these things. It's just amazing. I want to go to Japan, and I want to swim with giant salamanders.
Oh man.
And I'm gonna arm wrestle Dr. Loafman until he lets me come and play with his hellbenders, and I will be in the water with them. That's fantastic.
I would
Yeah.
love to see some hellbenders one day. That'd be so
Yeah.
awesome.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
The amphibian side of things is where I severely lack. I have a ton of frogs that I have seen on my list, but as far as like salamanders and hellbenders, things like that, I severely lack as far as
Yeah.
the Carolina
I
species go.
really wanted to see some sirens when we went to
Yeah.
Florida, but you can't look for everything. You're limited to time, and habitats are different, and so I didn't get to see sirens. But I will go back to Florida to herp, and that'll be top of my list.
Well, next time you come down southeast, man, you gotta let us know. Well,
Oh, mate, I should definitely hit you
yeah,
up. Yeah.
absolutely. And if you want to come my way, my door's always open. You know,
Oh, awesome.
he's in the chat. He said Nipper needs to come herping with me. His name's Gabe Schuler. He was on our last episode, and
That dude's
he's
a god.
dude is an incredible herper. He sent us pictures of rainbow snakes just today. He found
Wow.
rainbows, and I assume you don't have Carolina pygmies yet. I know you have Duskies when you were with Phil.
No, I didn't. So, we got, what did we get? Yeah, we got 3, 4 Duskies.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you got to come out my way and find some Carolinas, man. You got to get them
100%.
red
I
pygmies.
like the red ones. Well, I've had them at home.
Ah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I had all the pygmies at one point.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's awesome.
Strecker eye, my favorite. I think Strecker eye,
Yeah.
the nicest looking, but the miliaris, stunning as well.
Yeah, we get here where I'm at. It's kind of a intergrade between the Duskies and the Carolinas. It's a little ashy, but not quite red, you know, but not quite blue that you get down that way. So they're kind of an odd color. They're weirdly big, though. I found an absolutely massive DOR on a couple months ago on a road out my way, but out where my buddy Gabe is, we found one a couple weeks ago when I was herping with him, and this thing was just red.
Nice.
I mean, just red. Nipper, do you have the chat up? Can you see the chat on your end?
I cannot. No.
If you go to, do you see an area called comments?
Where am I looking?
It should be on the right side of your screen, maybe.
No, mate. I've got nothing.
I don't know why, but we've got Scott Iper in the chat.
Oh, hello, darling.
Yeah, I knew you'd be excited to see him there. He's been hitting us up, and he said one thing he said he's all I'm getting from this is that Nipper is a bitch around millipedes.
100%. I put my hands up to it. I am. Yeah, they scare the shits out of me.
And he also asked, "Were you keeping Ravis or Ravis 2?"
No, I would. I'd like to. They're quite expensive over here. But yeah, stunning. I wouldn't mind them. And Armstrong Eye was the other one that I really wanted as well.
Nice.
Both very similar.
Perfect. Well, I will keep you updated with people that ask questions in the chat. I'm not sure why you can't see it for some reason. Sky, you can see it on your end, right?
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
Nipper, do you have us as your whole screen?
I do. Hold on, I've got a thing.
Okay, yeah. Did it like?
I've got a thing that says private chat.
Okay, go to comments, not private chat.
Ah, there we go.
There you go. That way, if you see anything you want to pop in on as people comment, go ahead and
cool.
comment on that.
Right, Scott put 12 degrees is too fucking cold. He's not wrong. It's freezing here at the minute.
Yeah, that is. It's cold in a lot of areas right now. Like I said, yesterday it got up to like 75, 76, and then today it's 50 degrees, this morning, so it's been all over the place. It barely broke 60 today.
Well, as you know, I had my first herping outing yesterday.
Yeah, talk about that for a second.
Oh, it's so needed. It's we have Vipera berus here, the UK adder or the European adder.
God, yes,
an amazing snake. It's got the biggest distribution of any venomous snake. It's got the most northerly distribution of any snake, and it's just a phenomenal, iconic species. I absolutely love it. And it's so weather dependent on when they emerge from hibernation. And I had a day off yesterday, and work's been a bit mental, and I had a list of jobs to do for my missus like that. And my phone goes early in the morning, and my mate went, "It's sunny. I'm out at such and such a site that we go to, and they're all out." And my missus looked at me and she went, "Go on then." And I jumped out of bed, quick shower, got me kit, and was gone. And that was the first time I've been out this year.
Wow.
And it was great. The weather was shocking. We had intermittent sunshine, like the sun would come out for about 10 minutes and then it'd be overcast, and the sun would come out for 10 minutes, it'd be overcast. But we got 7 adders, just stunning. At this time of the year, they're really, really skittish. Later in the year, once they're bred, you can probably get within 2 or 3 feet of them, and they're really confiding, and you can take some really lovely shots of them. At this time of the year, you cannot get within 20, 30 feet of them. They're
wow.
Their habitat is chalk, or particularly in the UK, is chalk hillsides, like chalk valleys, with sort of like short grass and then lots of blackberry bushes and stuff like that. And they tend to bask at the bottom of the blackberry bushes. And the minute you come anywhere near them, they're gone straight into the bushes. So we were long lensing them to try and get some pictures. But yeah, we got 7. It was just so lovely to be out. And we flipped a load of our what we call slow worms, like legless lizards as well. We found a load of those. So just a joy to actually be out already. And I got a new camera. I got a new lens. So it's the first time I've used those. So it was good to. You get herp rusty. I mean, I don't actually feel the same, but it was almost kind of like the first time I've been out. I was all fingers and thumbs with a camera because it was new and I didn't know where this was and how to do this, how to do that, and changing lenses. I was shit. And then, I looked in my pack and I packed some of the stuff I needed. So it was good to just get the cobwebs away because, couple of weeks' time, I'm going on a proper herp trip. So that was nice just to get sort of like back in the frame.
That's why you gotta start birding a little bit more, man, because that you can do that more times of the year. You get that new camera, you can get some
Yeah,
birds up there. Come on, man.
try and stay. I do like a bit of birding. I can't lie, but I don't take pictures.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how I learned to get good. When I used to do a lot more photography than I do now. Nowadays, it's all just phone stuff. But I used to do a lot more with an actual camera, and that's where I got good with actual camera. Was trying to take pictures of birds flying in the air, and
okay,
all these different things. I got
yeah,
really good at doing that, and it made taking pictures of snakes just sitting there that much easier. it's,
yeah.
it's a lot.
Someone's just. I hope they're talking about you. Gabe's just called you a dirty birder. He won't
Yeah,
be talking
that's
about
me.
me. That's
That's
weird.
me. Yeah,
That's
that's
weird.
me. I love birds. You can
Oh,
ask
I do.
Sky. When I was out there for, I think the first time I went and visited Sky, we saw sandhill cranes, and
Oh, I saw those in
I
Florida.
about shit my pants when I saw them for the first time. I was like,
Yeah,
"What is that?"
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I thought it was
I'm
that
like,
was
wonderful.
what?
fun.
I'm like, it's a sandhill crane. He's like, I know, stop. I'm like, I see these every day, bro. Chill out.
Never
Oh no,
seen it. These
I
things
was the
were
same.
taller than I am. It's just,
Yeah,
Modern day pterodactyls,
yeah,
dude.
man.
I got to be honest though. When we went to Arizona, I was really disappointed. I saw my first Roadrunner, and it was about the third of the size that I thought a Roadrunner was.
Yeah, they're like this
They're
big.
tiny.
Yeah.
When you see the cartoon, they look fucking massive, and
Yeah,
this
they're
is
like
a tiny little thing.
ostrich sized, and
Yeah, but there we are.
But Scott asked a little bit in the chat. He said, "Do the UK adults keep the colored tails?" And I think he's referring to the adders by you.
No, when they get older, it's yeah. The youngsters have like the brighter tail, and I know Scott was fortunate enough. I think he was. I can't remember which country he was in now. I think he was in when he came over. I think he saw them in Holland. I think that's right. Might have been Belgium. I think it was Holland. Um, yeah, when they're small, they have the little tail, probably for caudal luring, the same as everything else. But as they get older, no, they lose the tail color.
Beautiful, beautiful.
That's pretty cool to hear that you were out this weekend though, getting some luck, because my buddy Aiden, he lives in Great Britain, and he was out stoked. He's like, I got my first adders and natrix and everything of the year, and said he
Oh,
saw
that's
some of the
cool.
grass snakes and stuff, or
That's
the
cool.
legless lizards, the worm lizards that you were talking about. So
Yeah,
I was like, dang, it must have been popping off over there if you guys were all finding them. So that's cool.
I think it's just the first sunshine we've seen for
Yeah,
months.
that's
Yeah.
what he was saying. He's like, I had to get out there, and so that's
Uh,
cool that
the
everything was coming out.
the chap that you read out earlier on at the start of the show, he
Ben,
was he was talking about UK adders, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see the picture of that if you can
Yeah,
bring it
I'll
to
send
the.
it to you on we'll
yeah,
send
Yeah,
it to you.
that'd be cool. And
absolutely.
I kind of got an idea where he lives because there's only certain places where you get both species of lizards and the snake all in one area.
Okay.
So it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't mention where he lives, so that's cool. Then all three of you guys went out this weekend then
Yeah.
and got some, technically, not two of you, all three of you. So
yeah,
that's even more awesome.
yeah.
I just seen Gabe's comment. I have seen both species of Montpellier snake in multiple times in multiple countries. I've never been chewed on one because I don't want to be. I've caught them, I pick them up, but they are a handful. Particularly the Easterns, they get big, and yeah, you wouldn't want to take a bite of one.
Yeah. It's and so for us common folk who don't know what a Montpellier is that what's the common name of those?
So you've got the Montpellier snake. Is the common name.
Okay, well, I've never heard of it. So.
It's I'm trying to think of an equivalent in the US. It's a bulky snake. I mean, it can get to about 5, maybe 6 foot.
Oh wow.
Probably as thick as your wrist. Really powerful snake. Rear fang venomous.
Okay.
It's one of the in the areas they are that they dominate. They're really opportunistic. They feed on anything.
Yeah.
Really, really cool. You got the ones that occur in like Portugal and Spain and through into the south of France is
Okay.
is the western, and then you've got the eastern, which is like the Balkans area, so through into Turkey,
Okay.
and then up into Israel and the Middle East and stuff like that. But yeah, they look a bit cobra-like. They've got really hooded eyes,
Okay.
I was
and they're
trying to pull up a picture to kind of show a little. I don't know if you'll even be able to see
Another
it.
that's it.
one.
Yeah, you can see the top of their
Oh,
eyebrows
okay.
is really built up, and you see the size of their eyes. If you
Yeah.
imagine,
It's kind of like a coach whip, but a pine snake size.
yeah,
It sounds
that's a
like.
good analogy. If you imagine a hybrid between
Yeah.
a coach whip and a pine
That's
snake,
what the head and the big eyes remind me of, that coach whip stature, but them being more slender and long. These are the
yeah,
size of your wrist. It's more like a pituophis and a
It
coach whip
really,
at a
it
baseball.
really looks coach whippy in that
Yeah,
picture.
yeah,
very coach whippy.
yeah.
Wow.
That's an Eastern. That
That's incredible.
yeah, really
And
That-
nice.
Gabe even said in his comment that it's like a coach whip and a black racer on crack. So
Yeah, actually,
Okay.
someone's just put Brent's just put Madagascar giant hognose. That's a really good analogy.
Okay.
That's yeah, that sort
Okay.
of.
Very
But
good.
super cool, man. That's an awesome looking species.
yeah, I mean, I've got some pictures of me. That one I caught in Greece, and I'm holding it, and you'll see the size of them. They're hefty snakes.
It looks big in all the pictures. There's one picture where it looks like it's taken down some sort of lacerda or something, and it's
Yeah, they're pretty much. We get. Do you know Timon, the ocellated lizards? I think they're quite popular in the hobby in the States. So we got Timon nevadensis and Timon lepidus, two big lizards, sort of chuckwalla sized lizards,
Okay.
and they tend to feed on those quite a lot. The big Lacerta viridis as well, the green lizards, and also chameleons.
that's what
Okay.
was in this picture is a big old green lizard.
Do they eat other snakes as well?
I don't. I've never seen
Okay.
predation. I'm not saying they don't. They are predominantly lizard and mammal feeders.
I only ask because I know there's like there's not a whole lot of, there's some, so we know it happens, but like things like black racers, they're known to eat other small snakes, and that type of, they're not snake eaters like a king snake, but they do
There's a picture
prey
right
on
here of one
other
eating
small
another
snakes.
snake.
Oh,
Oh,
there
there you
you
go.
go.
There you go. Every day's a school day. Oh,
There
there
you
you
go.
are.
Wow, that's a big snake.
And I don't know what that other one was. It has a white belly and chin, so
Yeah,
you would
that
know maybe a
almost.
natrix or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably one of the Matrix Mora or something like that.
Yeah. Wow. Awesome. Well, we will, with that said, we're gonna dive into some of our questions now that
Oh.
we're 47 minutes in. This is
Good start.
fantastic, man. No, this is fantastic. So we're gonna get kind of into some of the meat and potatoes of this because I respect you so much as a herper. You are I look up to you so much and
Oh,
you've done. No, I'm serious, man. I listen as soon as I see Venom Exchange Radio pop up on my podcast, I'm right on it.
oh, that's really kind. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and by the way, anybody, if you don't know, Nipper and our great friend Phil Wolf do a podcast called Venomous Exchange Radio. Definitely check that out. It is one of my favorite podcasts. Even though Nipper hated it, the last episode about cobras was just absolutely fantastic. So definitely check that out. Check out their podcast. It is phenomenal. But so Nipper, we know you keep captive snakes as well as a small portion of us do. We field herp as well as captive keep. But what came first for you? Was it the field aspect or the captive keeping?
I'd say it depends what you consider properly field herping. Because as a kid, I grew up in and around London, so there wasn't a great opportunity to go out field herping. But as soon as we moved more out of London into the countryside, and you have to remember, I'm really old, so I'm one of these people, and I know everyone goes, ugh. Gen Zs, when they say, "Oh, the memes where you drink out of a hose pipe and you don't come home till it's dark." That
I
is,
did that.
yeah,
I
but
did that.
that is really how I grew up. and
Yeah.
we was out all the time. So I was out looking at wildlife all the time.
Yeah.
But I probably started, I was quite fortunate that my folks supported everything. So I always had tadpoles and newts and stuff like that, and a pond in the garden when we had a garden, stuff like that. So it's kind of simultaneous as a child doing both, but seriously herping, I would say, came just after starting to properly keep stuff. And my first captive snake that was non-native was a US snake. My first snake was a ribbon snake.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's a
that was
new
good.
one. I don't think I've
Yeah,
ever had that.
yeah. So that was good. But and I'd say the keeping sort of took over for a while, and then the field herping sort of come up to a level with it. And I'd say, and I'm going to sound like a real old fucker now, as you get older and older, now my collection is getting smaller and my field herping is getting bigger. So now I want a collection that's manageable so it gives me time to go out herping.
Absolutely.
Uh,
That's the little move we're all trying to make too, to make more
yeah,
time so we can be out there learning more and having more fun in the field.
exactly. I think, I don't mean to be patronizing, I'm just an old fucker. The memories that you get out herping and the experiences that you get out herping, for me personally, far outweigh any joy I would get, even if I bred a really rare species or something like
Absolutely.
that. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. I still like doing that, and I'm still really fascinated by that. But for me, the real blessing is to be out with your mates in the field, just observing wildlife.
Yeah.
If I had to make a choice, if someone said to me, you can either keep reptiles or you can go and see reptiles, I think if they'd asked me years ago, I said, oh, I just want to keep reptiles. Now I would say, right, I won't keep anything, but I want to be able to go out and see stuff in the wild.
100%.
I'm glad you said that because I think that's going to be a new question that we ask on this because I really like that because I feel the exact same way, even though I hope to God that is never an
No,
option. You know,
no,
I love keeping, I love what I do, you know, and I don't have a huge collection, but I have a large collection. It does take up a lot of time, but luckily colubrids, if you want to give them a day to do your water changes and feed,
yeah,
you can do that mostly, you know. And so I definitely find time to hurt plenty, but I really like that analogy. If you could only have one, which would it be? And I'm right there with you. I think
yeah,
if I could only have one, it would be field herping because
100%.
you know it's one of those things that like you talk about hatching a new species and everybody loves that. You know, that's such an amazing feeling, such an amazing accomplishment. But when people talk about that, I'm like, have you ever found your target species? You know, like
Yeah,
there's just such a, you know, captive breeding keeping is one thing and it can be very challenging, but when you set your sights on I want to find this species and you
yeah,
research the habitat, you find out what habitat suits that in your area, you know, and if it's not in your area, you find an area that it does inhabit and then you find the right habitat and you go out there and do it and you find it.
yeah.
That is
It is so
oh,
addictive. That's the trouble.
yeah,
It's like you feel like you accomplished a mission like when you were a kid or
absolutely.
something because you're doing
100%.
all the footwork, and then if it takes you a few tries and you're really, heated and wanting to make it happen and tensed out, and then you do make it happen, it just,
Oh,
like I said,
100%.
there's times where we're with the boys and we probably, good thing there's no one around with cameras because we're all sitting there grab ass and jumping around screaming like little girls with excitement, and it's like you said, those are memories you're going to hold on to forever.
And
So
it's the logistics of everything. You can be the best prepared herper in the world. There's still a massive element of luck. You've got to be in that, you're talking millions of square miles. You've got to flip the right rock or be on the right bit of road at the right time to see that thing. There is an element of chance in it. And when it all comes together, it's just the best thing.
Yeah, there's a
100%.
huge element of chance. I mean, this weekend when we were in Tallahassee, that's what we kept saying was like, this is 90% luck.
Oh yeah,
You got to know your stuff. You got to know habitat. You got to know areas, and that's all fine and dandy. That's all stuff you can find on Google, for fuck's sake. You can find all this out, but to be at that exact spot at that exact time that snake just so happens to be crossing a road or out for a bask and things like that, or your eyes just so happen to catch that slight bit of pattern within a rock
Yeah,
crevice, like there's so much happenstance and luck that goes into this. It makes it so much more rewarding than anything I can do in captivity.
100%.
Yeah.
And uh, Brent's just come up with a great phrase, and I totally agree with it in the chat there. Memories are going to last longer than any snake that you produce. I can still remember the feeling of seeing species that I saw 15 years ago. The first time you see that species, I can still remember the excitement. I can still remember who I was with. It's
I have memories from when I was like a 6, 7 year old kid catching king snakes at my dad's friend's house and trying to smuggle them into my dirt bike helmet bag and bring them home with us. But by the time we go load up into the truck, the king snake's already out of the bag and in my dad's windowsill. And he's like, dude, what are you doing trying to smuggle this dang snake back to my house? Like, all those memories are just
Yeah.
encrypted into my brain like they happened
exactly,
yesterday. And it's just like you
exactly.
said, that's all. I say it so many times now, but my biggest learning lesson for 2023 was that because I accomplished breeding a species that has been a goal of mine for like 5 years now, and finally bringing it to fruition. It was like I may say a joke. It was like I didn't get the breeders card in the mail, and they didn't send me a T-shirt and a hat and get in the cool kids club. Like, all I did was create more lives and more issues for me to take care of, and at the end of the day, that's all breeding is it's either, you're doing it for, the accomplishment, but at the end of the day, you're creating lives to take care of and be responsible for. And it's like, it really put things into perspective for me that I get so much more joy out of seeing a behavior in the wild and then, trying to bring that back to the house and then seeing an animal of my collection, do, you know, do a similar behavior or that exact behavior.
Yeah.
That high lasts so much longer, and like you're saying, the
100%.
enjoyment is just like you're getting more out of the ether of the universe doing
Yeah,
that.
100%. Yeah,
And herping is part of the is I'm not going to say part, it's pretty much 100% of the reason why I am obsessed with the species that I am.
yeah.
Like I keep a lot of locality rat snakes because that just intrigues me so much, and I don't think I know herping has such a big part in that, because these are like, yes, I still keep carpet pythons, but they're pretty much the only things I can't go out and see, at least on a semi regular basis without driving, like
Yeah,
they are. I felt herping is what made me fall so in love with these locality dirt snakes, essentially. These yellow rat snakes and gray rat snakes that very few people really care about, but like they are my true passion
that's great.
in herpetoculture. Just because I can go out and see them in my backyard. I can go to Florida and see the exact counties that I keep in my room.
That's wicked. I'm very jealous.
It's incredible, man. It's one of my favorite things about the stuff that I keep. It's so intriguing. It's so much fun, and I truly love it, and it's influenced me a lot. Just field herping, and doesn't matter what's cool in the hobby, doesn't matter what anybody else likes, but damn, if you like going out finding rat snakes, you'll probably love keeping them too.
100%.
You
Yeah.
know. Um, So that's awesome. Very good explanation on that one. So it's kind of decided that they kind of came at the same time, as far as keeping as well as herping, kind of almost simultaneously.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then, which I don't want to jump into your next question, but then a site came up on the internet. It was called Club 100, and it was the first time that I'd seen other people that were really into listing species. and it was for people that wanted to see 100 of Europe's reptile and amphibian species. That's the first time I've seen like a formalized, let's try and do this, not a competition, but a group of people that were similarly minded. So I thought, yeah, let's try and see if we can see 100 of the European species. And then by the time you're getting close to finishing the 100, field herping had really taken off. The internet was a much bigger thing. And then you think, oh, I'm going to do every species. And it took off from there. And it has dominated literally every holiday I go on, whether it's a holiday with my partner or whether it's a holiday just anywhere, always has a herping element. I will not go and do a Disney holiday. If I
You
go
can't.
to Florida, I'm going herping. If I go to Florida, I am not going to Disney.
Yeah, don't
Yeah,
waste your time.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm really lucky. My partner's, she's not a herper. She comes out and she's got this annoying habit of going, "What are you looking for?" And I'll describe it. And she go, "There it is,"
and she'll find it.
all the time. And her list, even though she's not into it particularly, she's got some of the rarest stuff in Europe on her list. And she's found some. She's got this. She found a snake in Castellarizo, and it's only the second time it's ever been found in Castellarizo. It's a really rare snake, and she literally just flipped a rock. Oh, what's this? She's really, really good. But she, we'll book a holiday, and then she'll go and lay on the beach and sunbathe, and I'll go herping, and it's just everything. Every trip I do has got some herping element to it.
And that's the best, we have to, anybody, who has a partner in this hobby, whether they're a part of it with you or not, you got to be grateful for them.
Oh, 100%.
We're a bunch of freaking psychopaths out here, and I got a room with 100 snakes in it.
I was going to say, I've got a building in my garden full of snakes, many of which are quite dangerous, and yet she's okay with it.
Yeah,
she puts her foot. No spiders, though. I'm not allowed spiders.
Yeah, so, well, that you got to draw the line somewhere. So definitely shout out to all the amazing partners out there who deal with all of our bullshit.
Yeah.
But so moving on, Nipper, what's in your herping bag, whether it be for a weekend trip or a day trip locally or a weekend trip? What's in your bag? What kind of equipment do you bring?
It depends. I'm going to be quite specific now. That's a great question. It depends on if it's a day trip. If I'm going to a site that I know, my bag will be different to if it's going to a site that I don't know.
We want to hear both.
Okay. Well, if I'm going to a site that I know, I'm going to travel as light as possible. My camera weighs quite a lot. Mm-hmm. And I always end up taking pictures just on my phone, so I don't know why I carry a big camera around anyway. I've got a really nice tripod which has been around the world, and I've probably used it about twice, but I just carry it around everywhere. So I will. My basics will be, if it's just a local trip, I will have wet wipes. Super important.
That's a new one. I like.
I've said this before. Everyone forgets wet wipes, right? Number of reasons. If you're handling reptiles and then you want to eat, you probably want to clean your hands if you can. That's a basic. Sometimes you have to go for a shit in the woods. Everybody likes a clean body. You know where I'm going.
Yep.
The other thing is, when you pick up a lot of snakes, particularly the colubrids that we have in Europe, they tend to musk everywhere.
Yes.
So you set your snake up for this lovely picture, and then you get home and you realize there's flies all over the snake. So if you give the snake a little clean, you don't get the flies landing on it and ruining your pictures.
Okay.
So wet wipes. If I'm local, I'll have a small first aid kit. If I go away, my first aid kit, I can conduct major operations. Small first aid kit, a ton of spare batteries, because I guarantee you, your camera battery is going to fail the minute you see the species that you waited all day for. I've had it happen so many times. So I take way more batteries than I need to. I take a lot of nuts and stuff like that because um, there's nothing worse than being hungry in the middle of nowhere or having to stop and go and try and find food when you're really, when the conditions are right, you want to be out herping. So to keep going, I'll have dried fruit, nuts, stuff like that.
I think, just to interject for a second, I think nuts are a great snack to keep because a lot of people don't know nuts have a ton of protein in them.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say that
So,
the biggest animals on Earth eat nuts as a main protein source.
yes,
yeah,
so that's a really good snack to keep on you. That's affordable, lightweight, easy to keep in a pack, and something
100%.
that will actually fill you up rather than some, BS little, stuff. So keep
Yeah,
that in mind when you're out in the field. Bring cash,
yeah,
some type of nut with you, and they'll go a lot longer than you realize.
yeah. And that's a bit, I don't take a lot if I'm on a local, just nip into my
Yeah.
local area. Now, when I go, like for the kit that I'm going to have when I go to Bulgaria, is going to be a lot different, or it's going to be a lot more stuff in there. So what I'll do for a trip, I will have all the information in my phone of all the different sites, all the GPS locations, what I'm expecting to find there, the INET satellite images, all that sort of stuff will be on my phone.
Okay.
I'll also print that out hard copy because I can guarantee you when you need it, your phone will fail. So everything will be in a folder, waterproof folder with all the information in. I tend to have a GPS with me because it's just a no-brainer in this day and age. If you're going out in the backwoods or whatever, they're so affordable to everybody now, and it's just a really really useful bit of kit. And I will mark everywhere that we find something. We'll go in there, and then we'll put it when we get back. We'll put it onto Google Maps so that we've got a reference where everything was. I will have a full Bifta first aid kit. Uh, I got quite a lot of first aid training um, to a reasonable level, paramedic level. So I like to have a decent first aid kit because oftentimes, some of the places we're going to as herpers, the nearest hospital is a very long way away. Some of the places you go to, not in America, but some of the places you might go to, the hospital is maybe not as great as we're used to. Um, so yeah, decent first aid kit, and in a first aid kit, I will have compression bandages. I'll have wound closing stuff. I will have stitching stuff if we need it. I will have electrolytes. Um, I will have EpiPens, that sort of thing. Uh, I also, because I'm proper old school, I will also have a compass and a map of the area that I'm going to be in a lot of the time because, again, electronic shit falls down when you really don't need it to. Um, Tons of water. Remember that, Scott, if you're listening, tons and tons of water. Ty told me to say that.
I love it.
Yeah, and again, more food than you think you're going to need because you're walking at altitude a lot of the time. You're going to be hungry. Sunscreen, again, really important, particularly at altitude. I think it's about it. Wet wipes, toilet roll, notebook. Yeah. um, yeah, always have a notebook. And I mean, I'm not in the same league as Eric. Eric is phenomenal, but I do take notes on where I've seen something. If it's something that I'm interested in keeping potentially in the future or something similar, I'll be taking notes on temperature and humidity. Eric's like a mad scientist when he goes out, and he's got UV meters and he's got temp guns and he's rummaging around in the soil to see what the soil's made up of and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and one thing I think I lack in that aspect is once I find something, my mind is okay, photograph it, kind of look around real quick and keep going because things are moving and it's time to keep on keeping on, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah, yeah,
That's the hard part for me is to like stop and notice what's going on, take notes of temperatures and stuff like that because like I get in the
yeah.
zone and I gotta find more, you know.
Oh no, I'm completely with you on that. I get, and particularly if say that I'm in an area, say I've gone on a trip, and it's harder for me now because in Europe there's only three things I can see that I haven't seen. But back in the day, when there was, I could go to, I think, so I went to Sardinia for the first time. There was probably 12 species on Sardinia that I hadn't seen. So as soon as I'd seen one, right, I've got to see the next one now. I've got to tick this one. I've got to tick this one. I've got to tick
Yeah.
this one. So I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I try and travel as light as possible because, we're all walking about all day.
Yeah.
Couple of other things I'd recommend are the what's the word I'm looking for? The chargers that you hang off the back of your rucksack.
The solar chargers.
Oh,
Solar chargers, yeah.
yeah.
Excellent idea, particularly if you're going on an extended trip.
I've been looking into those recently.
Yeah,
There's
that,
a lot of options.
yeah. I think that's worthwhile. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's about it.
Other than wet wipes, do you carry like actual toilet paper with
Oh,
you?
always have a bog roll with
Okay.
me. Yeah, always have a bog roll.
Yeah.
Something that I picked up from Eric, which is really good. Electrolytes. Take
Yeah.
electrolytes with you. Halfway through the day, when your head's going down a little bit, just bung one of those in your water. It perks you up no end.
And this is kind of off topic, but people like Smitty live off of this. You're also like me and you don't do caffeine, right?
Not at all. No.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Smitty, I think, drank about 4 monsters just on our way to Tallahassee last weekend.
Homie drank 4 before we even started herping last weekend.
And I officially drink absolutely no caffeine. I don't even drink soda anymore. I indulge in the occasional root beer or Sprite if I need
Oh,
to.
love a root beer.
Oh man, that's my jam. But no, I am caffeine free
Yeah.
all the way.
And it
But
fucks me off because, you know, Rob and Eric get up and they're, well, Rob's just weird. He's just a machine that he just never gets tired.
he's a machine.
I
Yeah.
don't know why. If you told me Rob was actually AI, I would believe you. I have yet to see him tired. He just doesn't need sleep. But Eric gets up looking like hammered shit, and then he just makes himself a coffee, and that's it. He's fine again. And we
Yeah.
don't have that luxury. We just have
No.
to soldier on.
No, I can't drink coffee. I've got a heart arrhythmia and any type of caffeine. I mean, even caffeine in a soda, it's like it'll make me feel sick because my heart
Yeah,
feels like it's about to
I'm,
pound out of my chest, and I get
I'm exactly the same.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
not pleasant. And luckily, I've kind of gotten used to it. You know, I can usually take a shower, put some water on my face, and I'll wake up and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
But man, is there anything that you do that helps you wake up, without caffeine?
I think I'm just used to it now. I drink
Yeah,
tea. I drink
I'm with you.
decaf tea.
Okay.
But no, that unfortunately there isn't. Electrolytes is the best thing to have.
Yeah.
You have an electrolyte in the morning, that'll perk you right up.
I might have to try that for my morning beverage.
Makes a difference. The other thing, which I've had no knowledge of, and then I went to Florida, and now I think is the best bit of kit ever, is the mosquito repellent thing.
Oh yeah. 'Cause
God, yeah.
Southeast, you gotta have bug spray, my man.
No, this is an electronic.
He's
Oh,
You
he's
put
talking about the Thermacell.
yeah,
Thermacell. That's
Yeah.
it. What
Yeah.
a great bit of kit. Honestly, I wish I'd have had one years ago.
Yeah.
Those on my back porch.
Where I'm going in Bulgaria, there's a certain area, and we go there, and we always find really good snakes. We find Amidites vipers, we find red whip snakes, we find Aesculapian snakes, and we never get any decent pictures because the mosquitoes are so bad there. I mean, it is literally unbearable.
Yeah.
And then when we went to Florida, we went to this It was kind of a very small park, sort of like a walkway through some swamp. But it was the walk all the way around was probably only 2 miles. It was quite a nice little park, and I was probably there only 5 minutes. And I flipped a little rotten log, and there was a pygmy rattlesnake underneath. I was like,
Wow.
yeah, amazing. And but the mosquitoes were really all over the place. And then Phil just went, "Oh, hold on," and he got this thing out of his backpack, fired it up, and they just parted like a sea parting. It was amazing, and we could get pictures, and it was really good. I've got to have one of those now, so we've all got one. Phil kindly got us all one, and yeah,
Yeah.
absolute game changer. So this time when I go back to Bulgaria, I'm going to take it, and I should be able to sit and take pictures without having all my blood sucked out of me.
Nice.
It's surprising how well those work. When I was a kid, I played baseball, growing up, and this is completely off topic, but I remember a practice specifically one day the mosquitoes were worse than any day I had seen pretty much in my life. And my dad had a thermocell and he was sitting in the bleachers. And I look up and I see all the other dads huddled around him as close as he could because his thermocell was keeping the mosquitoes at bay. It is that's something I actually thought about this weekend because the bugs were never terrible because it stayed semi cool, so they weren't bad, but it's something I definitely have thought about as a thermosol to keep along.
Yeah, great kit.
Yeah, because those are something you can hang on your backpack, your belt, any of those, and it follows you. They work
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Better than any bug spray you're going to put
Oh,
on.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Scott said, I need one of these. Please send through the details.
Yeah, they need a fly version too out there. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise.
And
Yeah.
it comes in camo as well. It's a
Oh,
win-win.
yeah. It's perfect. Yeah. The only thing I don't know if they stop is so like here in the southeast we have horse flies and yellow flies, and I have a WMA to where we were driving down the road just kind of looking around, and the yellow flies were swarming the car we were in. I mean, hitting, and these are, I don't, Nipper, do you know what a horsefly, yellow fly looks like?
Oh, I know what a horsefly looks like. I've got a good
Okay.
story about horseflies.
So a yellow fly is ever so slightly smaller than a horsefly, but they do the exact same thing. And these things were just swarming the car. For some reason, they get around like the exhaust, like they follow the exhaust. And I got out of the car to go pee in the woods, and it was so bad. I couldn't take a leak. It felt like I was in a horror movie about to get swarmed and eaten by these yellow flies. I just ran back to the car. I was like, nope, I can't do it. They're everywhere. So I don't know if they help with those. I hope they do because I might have to give that a try. But whew, they are something else. But that was a very good explanation on what you keep in your bag. Definitely some things to keep in mind for everybody. I think wet wipes is a great one to keep on you for multitude of reasons. I keep hand sanitizer on me, like for my hands specifically, but I think wet wipes would work a little better specifically for dirt and stuff. When you're messing with dirt snakes, you normally get pretty dirty around here.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good one for actual cleanup purposes.
And then obviously my bag is in two halves, the one that I normally hurt with. So the top
Right.
half is all my kit and the bottom half's all the photographic kit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fantastic.
That's the heavy part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of random, but do you wear a hat when you're out in like sunnier areas,
Yeah,
stuff for
always,
protection?
always. Yeah.
Always a cap. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So, kind of tell us what your journey has been like finding nearly every species of herp in Europe. What has it been like for you, and what was the journey like finding these things?
It's been long and expensive.
Imagine.
To be honest, it's just been I don't want to sound all wanky. It's just been a joy. There's this, there are no negatives to it. I've been out and, I've seen so many things that I wouldn't have seen. I've met so many people that I wouldn't have met. And I've seen so many species that I wouldn't have seen. It's just been incredible. It's, when you start out, you can literally, everywhere you go, everything. It's like me in America. Everything I see is amazing because everything is new. Um, and that's a lovely, lovely period. But then you start getting towards the end of the list, and it gets a little bit more stressy because instead of going on a trip and every day you're going to see loads of new things, you're going to go and do a week, and you might not find the one thing that you need to find. But yeah, it's been interesting, and because I'm so old, I've seen it evolve. Because when I first started doing it, there wasn't that many people, or you couldn't get in touch with that many people field herping.
Mhm.
So you didn't know that many other people were doing it. And now, obviously, everyone's on Instagram, everyone's on YouTube posting their videos, and I love it. I'm just really jealous that 20-year-old me isn't like a 20-year-old me today. So a 20-year-old today can just go on YouTube and see, well, what's it like to herp in Florida? What's it like to herp in Georgia? What's it like to herp in Arizona? And they can watch people flipping boards, and they can watch people going up mountains, do all this great stuff. Almost, in fact, you can do it in real time. There's enough live stuff on there if you know where to go. And that is such a valuable resource for people, and it's so encouraging for people. But when I started, there was none of that. You literally, am I weird? Am I the only person that's doing this? Do I want to let other people know I'm doing it? How do I do this? And now, it makes me, I'm such an old fucker, but it makes me laugh. I could be out in the field and I can think, what's that snake? And I can just go online in the middle of nowhere and just look up every bit of information that I need to look. Whereas before, you'd have to get a book. You probably don't know what they are, but they're, you get a book and you just flip through it and have to actually find it.
I got a couple field guides. All right.
Yeah,
Do
well,
I
there you
use
go.
them? No, but I got
No,
them.
you got them because they got pretty pictures in. Yeah, but
Too.
it's just so different now, and I think it's so much better now.
Yeah.
And the other thing, like now, like I'm going to Bulgaria. I'm messaging people in Bulgaria and talking to them in real time now, and I'm going to meet those people in Bulgaria, and it's fantastic. Whereas before, you go to Bulgaria on your own or with a friend, you'd not know anybody there, you'd not know any of the sites. You'd probably be looking through old scientific studies and trying to work out where they'd been. It's just not taking anything away from it because it's always hard, but it's so much easier now than it used to be.
No, for sure. Because if you're, back then, if you had to refer to field guides from 10, 20, 30 years ago as to where these species could be, that's a whole lot different than, even back then, if this was the 90s or 80s and you had to refer to something that was 10, 20, 30 years old,
Yeah,
there's no telling how that terrain has changed with all the habitat destruction and things like that. So in this area, they may have been documented in said field guide. That doesn't mean they're still going to be there because all that habitat could have, not saying it was, but could have been destroyed. So that at that point, that information is null and void. You
yeah,
might be able to know the habitat, but that doesn't mean, like, if they give specifics on where, that doesn't mean it's still going to be there.
yeah,
You know?
100%. And again, I'm going to sound really old, and again, a lot of people won't even know what I'm talking about. And I was right on the cusp of this. I'm not old enough to this has been a major thing, but I can still remember when I first started, and I'm talking as a child, you took pictures on film
Yeah.
and you couldn't see what you'd taken, and you could only take 36 at a time.
Oh God.
That was your trip. I mean, we're all in the field now shooting 500 frames and then deleting what we don't want in real time and going, oh, that's out of focus. Oh, I can just put the white balance up there and all that, which you can do on the back of your camera.
Yeah.
Whereas before, you took your pictures, you come home, you develop them, and they're all shit.
And
The
then
whole
it's just
camera
you're
roll
just
for
out
each
of luck.
snake. Just trying
Yeah,
to take a friggin' picture of it.
100%.
Like use every shot we got.
And now
So
you,
when you're looking at the old snake books from the 50s and you see, or the 60s or the 70s, and you see an amazing pin sharp picture of a snake in the wild, you've got to think that was a real achievement because,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Good work for that one.
yeah,
Yeah,
so,
and now with all editing softwares and the fact
yeah,
that you can take 500 pictures in a matter of 5 minutes,
yeah,
it's
exactly.
incredible what we can accomplish now.
Oh, 100%. And to be fair, I'm not being funny, but if you come back from a field trip and you've taken dog shit pictures, there's something wrong with you now because
Yeah,
most cameras are point and push.
yeah,
And, most mobile phones now, the quality of the images you can get off the phone are pretty, and if you're not going to reproduce them commercially, they're pretty good.
and that's another thing with like the phones, like nowadays, especially with things like iPhone, they have a portrait mode, and they can make
Yeah.
the background all nice and blurry, and even with those, you can change. So like a lot of times, I'll just snap the picture in this portrait mode, whatever, and it might be out of focus, but I can change the focus point,
Yeah.
and it changes the whole picture. So
Yeah.
I have so much more respect for the people that took high quality, amazing photos
Oh, 100%.
back
Yeah.
before all this technology was developed. If you
Yeah.
took an amazing photo back then, that was just pure
Skill.
Work.
skill
Yeah.
and work. Like it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but even now, like of course, like with the high dollar equipment that you can get, you can take some photos that are just
Yeah.
absolutely
I
just
mean,
incredible.
I just bought a new lens. It's a Nikon 105 fixed macro.
Okay.
It's VR. I took it out for the first time, and honestly, you can be shaking like a shitting dog, and it's still pin sharp. It's
Yeah.
so quick to focus. It's instant and silent. Technology is just phenomenal for photography these days.
What kind of camera body do you use? What's the body of your camera?
It's a Nikon 550D.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
So you haven't moved to the mirrorless side of things. You're still the
Not
DSLR.
yet. I
I,
prefer, yeah,
I think for herping purposes, I think DSLRs are the way to go. Your mirrorless stuff is definitely good for indoor stuff. That's good as
yeah, I would agree.
still. But I think when you're in the field, whether it be herps or birds or anything like that, I think DSLR is.
Well, I had to get a new camera recently because Florida killed my camera. Um,
Humidity.
the humidity and the sand, just literally. Arizona didn't help, Utah didn't help, but
I'm,
Florida was the nail in the coffin.
I was about to say Florida just put
The
that nail in.
Flo-
finisher.
Florida's just finished it off, so I had to. Florida, I had to replace a lens because it was just trashed when I got back from Florida, and I had to replace the camera body because again, and I would say, it's just my personal preference, my humble experience. I've used Canon and I've used Nikon in the field, and I think Nikon is better. I don't think the image quality is any different or anything like that. I just think for build quality, the ability to be able to drop it, roll it around in the sand and stuff
Yeah.
like that. For me, I don't know. I think Nikon has just got the edge in terms of durability.
There's only one Canon camera that I think, as far as wildlife photography goes, whether it be snakes, birds, whatever, Canon has came out with a camera a couple years ago that actually, it's mostly for birders. Birders like it a lot, but it's got eye tracking on it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
like for flying birds, it automatically focuses
Locks in
on
or
the
whatever.
eye, and so I think as far as like a point and shoot goes, being able to get a quick picture, especially if you're a birder, you like take flying pictures, it automatically focuses on that eye. And I think as far as wildlife photography, I've always been a Nikon guy. I prefer Nikon. I still have a Nikon here. It's an older model. I have to find batteries for it. It's annoying. But I've always been a Nikon guy, but this one Canon specific body is pretty good as far as wildlife is concerned. It's not cheap. I think the body alone is pushing $1,000, and
mm,
that's just for the body, no lenses. It is not a cheap
yeah,
camera at all. But as far as affordability and capability, I agree. Nikon,
yeah. I mean, that said,
good one.
my friend Frank, and I urge you all to follow him on Instagram, Frank_Cannon. Um, he won one of the sections in Wildlife Photographer of the Year. He's
Wow.
just amazing photographer. He travels around the world. It's his full-time job, and he uses Canon. So
Yeah. Well,
whatever suits. And his the pictures that he deletes are the pictures that I'm aspiring to take. He is literally another level.
that's incredible. So definitely check him out. We all love good pictures.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But next thing we got on here, so this is more target specific. So if you have a target in mind, say you've never been to, yeah, obviously you've been to scenarios where you had to go to a different country you've never been to find a certain species. What is your what's your process of finding the right habitat, the right country, the right area to target to find said species? Like, how do you go about that?
Okay, I'll answer that. I'm just going to quickly, something just come up in the
Yeah.
chat.
No, go ahead.
Brent's just asked me if I saw an eastern hognose. No, we tried, but we didn't find one. But I'm going to disappoint. I'm just not that interested in hognoses. Everyone loves them. They don't do much for me. I'm getting more.
Wow.
I'd be much more excited by king snakes than I am
Oh,
hognoses.
for sure, for
You
sure.
know, I mean, Rob absolutely loves them. And we did look hard for them, but it would have been nice to see. But I was more excited by the toads we found than if I'd seen a hognose.
That's honestly a little disappointing because I'm kind of with Brett, man. I geek out anytime I find a hog nose, man.
Yeah, I don't know. They really don't do anything for me.
That's all
That's
right.
fine.
He said that's fine.
That's fine. When
Fucking
I
loser,
when I
but whatever.
when I saw the Pyra Milana in the wild, unbelievable. Absolutely lost my shit. Just incredible to see because I keep Pyra Milana, I keep Nablock. I'm really into my Kings and Milks at home, and to see them in the wild blew me away.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Back to your question.
Yes.
So first thing I'll do is what everyone else probably does. I'll go on iNaturalist and I will get as much information from iNaturalist as I can for a particular species. I will go on Facebook and see if there's any local herping groups. Most countries in Europe, most areas in Europe will have a area Facebook group for herps. So I'll start posting on there and asking if anybody's got any advice on there. If it's a specific species that I'm after, I will go and see what scientific papers I can find for that species. Because sadly, a lot of the academic papers give so much site information away without realizing.
Oh wow.
Really, really do. So I'll download any papers, I'll read through them, see if we can get any sites. I will go online and this is I will read trip reports from other people. A lot of people give out way too much information. I never post pictures with skylines in them.
No.
Because you
It,
can search that on Google Maps.
it's good for guys like us who don't have ill intentions. We just want to find them, but it's very
Exactly.
bad for poachers.
Yeah, if you're looking at some rare species, there's some species in Europe that I've gone to see that are super rare and very sought after in the hobby. And when you see people posting, a beautiful snake, but they've put the skyline behind it, and you can see the village behind it, and you think, oh no, come on. So I'll read trip reports, and generally just try and get into contact with a local person.
Yeah.
I think having a local point of contact is invaluable. I'll give you an example. With some mates, we went to Corsica, which is a beautiful island. It's off the coast of, it's kind of off the coast of Italy. It's quite a big island, and it's got loads of endemics on there. One of the endemics I really wanted to see was the Corsican brook newt, which is like a big, fat, brown salamander type thing. And we tried and tried and tried for this salamander. So the habitat is really, really steep alpine woodland with brooks running down it, like little streams running down it. So if you can imagine, you're almost on your hands and knees having to crawl up the sides of these mountains because they're very, very steep. They've got grass on them, but there's bare rock coming through the grass, and you've got streams coming down that are probably 2 feet wide, no wider than that. And then they'll have a little plunge pool that's about 4 feet wide, and then it will go down into the next little stream. And sort of like every 10 feet, there's one of these streams coming down. And it took us days to find the brook. We found it, but the weird thing is, say you had 500 meters or 500 yards of mountainside, and there'd be 50 of these little streams coming down. Only 2 of them would have the brook newts in, even though the habitat was exactly the same all the way through. Now, if you'd had a local, the local would have come and gone, you just need to look in those 2 streams.
Right.
It's like if anybody's looking for Berus where I am, if someone comes over, say you come over to the UK and you wanted to find an adder, you go to the perfect habitat, you might know the site for it, but you'd wander around all day looking for them. Whereas I go, oh, there's one that normally basts out over here. Those bushes are good. There's normally some over. It just saves so much time. Yeah. So yeah, one of the things is I try and get some local contacts.
Here's a question from Scott there.
Regarding the brook newts, I genuinely don't know because the water quality was the same. The amount of sunshine that the water was getting was exactly the same. The fauna in the water was exactly the same. The flora in the water was exactly the same. It just there was no real logic to it that one of these little 2-foot streams would be really abundant, and then 10 foot away there was nothing in it.
I've often wondered that though, because there's been numerous times where I've been in dense habitat and, each direction you look, it's all just textbook, and you'd just expect whatever your target species is to just be, around every corner or around every little nook. But then you might find they're just all in one little patch of area and, in a couple of spots. And it makes you wonder why they're just
Yeah, I
doing
mean,
these little pocket populations rather than dispersing out, as if it's a prey thing or a safety thing
yeah,
or,
as I say, there's obviously something going on that we as humans don't know about.
yeah.
But
Because
unless that's your local patch and you herp that area all the time, you're not going to know that. As herpers, we're just going to go. We're going to do our research, and we're going to go to what we think is the best habitat. And on paper, what is the best habitat, as you've just said, might not be the thing that has the most density of species.
yeah, you might be right smack dab in the textbook habitat, but it, it's either the wrong place, wrong time, or you're just not in the right pocket.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that goes into, again, the the luck that comes into herping is right place, right
Yeah,
time, because that also goes into your target, so if you come to the southeast and you want to find, say, a southern hog nose, very, very secretive, I'm gonna use hog noses because fuck you, Nipper. I'm just kidding. But southern hog noses are very hard to find in this area, but you have to know what time of year they're most active. It's not just habitat, habitat is one part of it, but you have to know the time of year they're the most active, along with that. So as far as to help your chances to find said species, you got to look way more into than just the habitat that they may reside in, things like that.
exactly. Completely agree. I've just seen Phil's online.
Yeah. Phil's
Yay,
here.
Phil.
And this might be the I think this is the only time Phil's tuned in for a live. So there's of course he comes on when you're
Of course he does.
here. We're very grateful for that. Thank you, Phil.
Oh, I haven't
Thanks,
spoken to
Phil.
today. I miss you, man.
We love you, buddy.
Yeah.
I actually had a phone call with Phil not too long ago. I was watching O'Shea's Great Adventure on
Prime.
I was watching some yeah, I haven't bought it yet, but I was watching some YouTube videos. I need to. And I was watching some YouTube episodes that he had on there, and so I messaged Phil about some South Florida stuff, and he called me and we had a chat for
Yeah.
10-20 minutes. And I love hearing from that guy. One of my favorite people on this planet.
100%.
He is
100%.
just a joy to have on. But yeah, he'll definitely be on the show in the coming months for sure. And everybody, we shouted out Venom Exchange Radio, and it is right there in the comments. So go ahead and click that, subscribe to their YouTube channel, all that good stuff. You gotta keep a lookout. One of my favorite podcasts out there right now. So
Yeah, that's very kind. Thank you.
yeah, no, I absolutely love it. So what else have we got here? So as far as Europe specifically is concerned, what advice do you give somebody who is either a European person wanting to start herping, or somebody say from another continent or country that wants to start herping in Europe? What kind of advice would you give said person?
If they are European, I would say, as as we were speaking earlier on, um, I say herp your local area. Get to know what you're looking for in terms of. I mean, we all do it without thinking about it, but it's something that you have to learn. Get to know the sound that a lizard makes when it's going through the undergrowth rather than a snake going through the undergrowth, and
Yeah.
get to know the site, get to know the sort of areas and seeing camouflage breaking up in the sunlight and all those sort of things, and learn that in your local area first. Um, and then do what I just said. Do your research and decide which species you want to see. It's difficult. Europe is so different, so it's really weird. Europe is really lots of small different habitats really close together, whereas the US is masses of the same habitat.
It's very vast.
It is vast, and you've got like Arizona, and you've got Nevada, and you've got Colorado, and you've got Utah, and they all pretty much look the same. And I'm really sorry for everyone that lives in those places. I know there's nuances, but pretty much it's just desert and shit food. And whereas in a 50-mile drive in Europe, the habitat is going to be randomly different.
Okay.
So choose which sort of species, have a list of species you want to see, and then decide on which country is going to give you the best chance to see that. So if it was, say you think, right, I want to start herping, I want to see vipers. What's my best chance of seeing vipers? I would say go to Spain.
Okay.
Spain has got beautiful vipers and beautiful scenery, and probably the best chance of seeing vipers in numbers. But if I wanted to see, let me think, if I want to see salamanders, I say, oh, go to Sardinia. Sardinia's got a completely different habitat. It's got loads of salamanders in one place. So kind of think what species you want to see. Or if you want to go generalistic, I'm going to go south of France and then come over into Spain and then go into Portugal. If you're coming from the US, completely different story. If you want to start herping in Europe, you're coming from the US, go with a European. Make friends with a European that herps that area. Otherwise, you're going to really struggle.
Yeah.
And I did it the polar opposite. Herping in Europe is completely different from herping in the States. Completely.
Absolutely.
It's a world of just the methods, the timings, what you're looking for, everything is completely different. So my first proper herping trip in the States, I landed, I met Phil, Rob, and Eric, and Dustin, and we went herping. And I've started to bend over and I'm starting turning over stuff with my hands and flipping, and they're all looking at me going, "What the fuck are you doing?" And they've all got these big stump ripper hooks and they're doing everything. It's just different.
Yeah.
And temperature, it's so if I go out herping in Europe, I'm looking for cover that is getting hot. Whereas in the States, you're looking for cover that is staying cool because your temperatures are so much higher.
Right.
Yeah.
That does depend on the time of year. So,
Obviously, yeah, I'm
yeah,
talking generalistically.
yeah, absolutely.
As a rule, we don't road cruise in Europe at all.
That was one of my follow-up questions was, do y'all road cruise much where
No,
you're
very,
at?
very, very rarely. I've done road cruising in the Middle East, but then again, the temperatures in the Middle East are similar to like Arizona and Nevada and places like that.
So why is that, specifically in Europe and where you're at, is it because of the cooler temperatures?
Yeah, you just don't really get snakes sitting out on the road that much. So 90% of European herping is walking up on something or flipping, and predominantly flipping. Apart from your obvious snakes that are going to sit out, apart from your venomous, your vipers and so on, certainly all your colubrids, you're probably going to flip them, not see them out. So yeah, road cruising in America was really strange for me. The first time we did it, we're going road cruising. I'm just sat in a car driving up there. What the fuck is going on? Are they going to steal my kidneys? Where are we going? What's going on?
This is lazy herping.
This is the laziest. Well, yeah, and it's.
It's
And don't get me
true.
wrong. We saw some great stuff.
Yeah.
It is, but it is easy herping.
It's
You know,
very productive, but it's very easy, very
yeah, and
laid back. You can listen
completely.
to a podcast while you find snakes. And I
We
mean,
we made a podcast while we were doing it. That's how it is.
Freaking awesome.
I love it.
But it is the polar opposite, and I think it's largely to do with the temperatures. Yes, Spain can get exceptionally hot, but not like the temperatures you get
Right.
in certain places. Um, and the habitat is, well, some of it's similar, but the habitat, a lot of it is different. So I just think the whole ethos of herping in Europe will be a bit of a culture shock for anybody, particularly from the US, that's going to go herping.
And I think that really goes into, having somebody who's an established herper, say,
Yeah,
yourself, for example, like me, if I ever herp Europe, you're going to be the first phone call I make,
100%, and
you
it
know?
will be a pleasure. And don't get me wrong, when I landed, my first proper trip was to Arizona, and I'm walking around like a complete fool because literally everything I saw was new.
Right.
Every butterfly, every dragonfly, every bird, every spider, every herp was new. I was like a kid. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
I was absolutely useless. I was just
Yeah.
like information overload. It was just amazing. And of course, I haven't got what I would call basic field skills for the US because it's not my habitat. It's
Right.
not how I would herp. And I think if anyone's going to come from the US, really try and make a contact with it, with whichever country you're going to go to. And I would recommend Spain, probably, or Spain or Greece, as the best places to go because their logistics are very, very easy. It's very cheap, and there are huge amounts of species there and good amounts of venomous species if that's what you want to see.
Which is almost kind of baffling to me because, like, Spain, I would understand, but like, if
Greece.
I was thinking of herping in Europe, Greece would not be on the
I would
list of
I would
places to
say
go.
if I had to do my top 5 places to herp in Europe, the Peloponnese in Greece would be certainly in the top 5.
Wow.
It's
That's
not only is it stunning, the species. I mean, there's samboas there.
That's
really
crazy.
I mean,
wow.
I've been to the Peloponnese a few times. The last trip, we were literally flipping rocks with boas underneath. That's mental. You've got Amidites vipers. You've got Ottoman vipers. I mean, Ottoman viper is a big, big venomous snake. It's Europe's biggest venomous snake. It is a beast. You've got some phenomenal. You've got Stardigamas because Greece. You've got the sort of crossover between Europe and Africa.
Yeah.
So a lot of the species are sort of on that sort of African European border. You've got chameleons. You've got so many cool assertids. You've got different legless skinks. You've got a ton of cool colubrids, and it's cheap. The food's great. Lots of turtles. What's not to love? Come on, let's go to Greece. Let's do it now.
I was about to
Yeah,
say, you got me all fired up.
I'm with it, man. I'll get you. You talk turtles. I know our boy Jack. He was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still there, but our boy Jack, he's a turtle fanatic. And you mentioned turtles, he's there.
Yeah,
I'm
honestly.
with
But in Greece, you've got like Balkan terrapin, European pond turtles. Got some really nice stuff out there.
I'm with it. Honestly, ever since becoming friends with you, Nipper, Europe has been like one of my like destination herp sites as far as out of the country.
I think what people should do, they should fly from the US to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
They should have a couple of days herping in the UK. That's all you'll need.
Mm-hmm.
And then they should use the UK as the drop-off point to go to somewhere in Europe. And I would recommend probably the Peloponnese in Greece for ease of logistics, as in everything you want to see is quite close together.
Okay.
You don't, also you've got the history. You've got
Greece is full.
It's Greece is so weird in the fact that there's ancient monuments everywhere and no one gives a shit. People have parked their car up against. It's just weird. Yeah, they're just so common. The food's great. The people are really friendly, and it's by and large a really, really safe place to travel.
And that's a big one, safety is a big thing. Everybody talks about wanting to herp places like Indonesia. And if you want to herp somewhere like Indonesia, you really got to know some people.
Oh, 100%. Some of my most species that I really want to see, they're in Mexico. I'm never going to see those things because they're all the things that I want to see are all in narco territory. And as a tall white man, I do not want to be walking around with a big camera with a big lens on it in that sort of area.
And a backpack full of expensive stuff.
Yeah, I look like I'm some fed straight away when I get down there. It's not going to be a good look. Don't get me wrong, Europe's got some places that aren't so safe to
everywhere does
to travel, but certainly the Peloponnese, but most of Greece is really lovely.
I'm sure y'all were in places in Florida that you did.
I've got to be honest. I don't want to slag it off because I know he's looking at me now. I have herped some naughty places around the world.
Yeah,
Florida was the worst. Honestly, I was expecting in my little European bubble.
Oh my God.
I thought, I've seen Florida on the telly. It's all sunny beaches and hot Cuban girls in bikinis. And
God, no.
It's going to be like Miami Vice, and everything's going to be lovely. And we landed, and then we drove away from the beaches up towards Georgia, and it was just full of people with face tattoos, no teeth, vests on, and trousers that didn't fit them, with pickup trucks with too many guns.
Where did you fly into?
I flew into West Palm Beach.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Oh yeah, South Florida.
So I had a couple of days herping with Phil, and then we met the others. I think we met them at Orlando.
Okay, yeah, that's right by me.
Yeah, me and Phil did drive down to the Tampa area for the crocodiles. Okay. And then we started driving back up towards the Georgia border that way. And the closer to the Georgia border we got, the more hillbilly it got. It was just...
You didn't make it to the Appalachia. That's where it gets real cousiny.
No, we didn't get that far up. But some of the it was sketchy.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah,
sure. There's some areas even by me, you get into, the city areas are fine or whatever, but like once you get into the backwoods of the southeast, it's definitely
yeah,
some areas that you don't really want to get caught by yourself.
yeah.
Uh,
Even just for me as a European, even going in the gas stations at night, it was just like Jesus.
That's a Tuesday for
It's
us,
a
Nipper. Come
show.
on, man.
My
There was some
when my
weird
UK
people.
buddy came down to visit and we were herping with him, we took him to the Circle K at right by my house. And one of the nights that we stopped up there, a bunch of people, rednecks, just got off the mud trail. So there was probably 10 mud trucks up there with 50 people standing in the back blasting music. And he was literally just having culture shock. And he gets back in my car and he goes, "Mate, what the fuck was that?" And I was like, "That's just a normal
Yeah,
night at the gas station. What are you
that
What do
talking
you mean?
about?" Yeah.
that sounds exactly like we had.
Oh
Exactly.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
just literally staring out the window like, "Is this a fucking movie scene?
Yeah,
Like, are people shooting a music video? Like, what is going on?" I'm like, "Nope, that's
yeah,
just rednecks after they get done mudding for the night."
yeah. It
It's
was.
it,
It's very strange, but
it's different down here, man. You get those hit country redneck people, and it's a different ball game. And God forbid you tell them you're looking for snakes, then you're in for a real treat out
yeah.
of that.
But we
And
had a lovely time.
that actually leads me to a random question. So obviously, and this is just me out of curiosity for again the different types of culture here. A lot of people, the only good snake is a dead snake. Is that similar to the European
Um,
mindset when it comes to
it
Europe?
depends where you go. If you go to some of the more, what's the word I'm looking for, mountainous areas in Europe, yeah, it will be. They'll kill a snake on site. Places like you go to Albania or even some of the mountain villages in Spain and stuff like that. The more rural areas, they
Yeah,
will kill snakes. But by and large, no, there's a massive, a good education program for wildlife and conservation. It's a really big thing. But the older people in the more rural areas will still just put a spade through a snake, unfortunately.
yeah, it's unfortunate here. The large majority of people are very afraid of snakes, and I'm okay if you're afraid of snakes, but like my father grew up as in the only good snake's a dead snake, type of
Yeah,
mindset. And that is still a very, very prominent thought process
yeah,
here in the
yeah,
Southeast because they don't know there's so many venomous snakes here. Not that there's so many, but they're copperheads, cottonmouths, things like that are very, very prominent.
yeah,
So
I
everything
think
to
people
them
just
is a
have
corn.
a lot of
Everything to
issues.
them is a copperhead. Everything to them is a cottonmouth. And it's the
yeah,
lack of education.
Misidentification a lot of the time.
Yes, it's not even
yeah,
that these people are uneducated; it's that they are misinterpreted of species here.
yeah,
That a lot of times the snake that they killed and said was a cottonmouth was a harmless banded water snake.
yeah,
You know, so that's again that was just something that came to me as like a cultural difference between here and there, and it's cool. So you kind of answered the next question we had was, someone who wants to start, travel herping. You kind of led into that. So that was fantastic, especially for Europe. So that's fantastic. You've done wonderful answering all these questions, and we sincerely appreciate it. Thank you
I
so
know
much.
he's answered like other questions
Yeah,
before. I
as he
think
goes,
all right.
this is what we want, man. Like
Yeah.
very much.
I am loving this so far, and a
You
lot of
got you
people
got to
in the
ask him
chat.
the main question of the show though.
Yes. So that's actually our next one. So how has you being the avid field herper that you are, how has field herping impacted the way you keep in
Oh, that's
captivity?
a
What has
very good question.
what changed from before versus after, and how does it look now?
I'm going to answer that in a funny way and say I genuinely believe you should go now. Not being hypocritical and say I've always done this, but now I genuinely believe you should go and see a species in the wild before you keep that species. Now,
I love that.
I'll give you. Going back to the pyros that we saw in Utah, the habitat for the pyros is not how I would have envisaged the habitat in my head. When I think of a mountain king, the habitat wasn't how I imagined it in my head. The example is it was a lot damper. Um, the area that the pyros was in, there was I imagined it to be drier than it actually was. There was moss everywhere. It was all rocks with moss. Soil under the rocks was all very damp all the time, um, and just the general temperatures much cooler than I thought they were going to be.
Mhm.
Um, so that definitely changed how I kept my mountain kings and things like that. Um, Also, tortoises. Um, Everyone keeps their tortoises wrong. Oh, my dogs are about to go mad. I do apologise. The dogs need a wee. They're gonna. Um, so I'm sure you've seen tortoises. You've seen desert tortoises and stuff like that.
Yeah.
European tortoises, very popular pet in Europe. Everyone keeps them wrong. They're overfed. Just where you see where tortoises live in Europe, it is so barren. They have like 2 or 3 months where they eat and eat and eat and eat and eat when there's rainfall, and then for 8 months of the year there's nothing. It's tinder dry. There's absolutely nothing. There's no greenery for them at all. Yet in captivity, people are giving them wet leaves all the time. For a lot of the certids, I think we overfeed a lot of stuff. I recently went to the Canary Islands and I was watching some of the Canary Island species, and I literally sat and I just had a spare 2 hours, and I sat at the bottom of this cliff face for 2 hours, and I just watched the lacertids on the cliff face, and I watched, and they fed so sparingly in that 2 hour period. They probably ate one fly or something like that,
Mhm.
and yet we're giving them loads of crickets and stuff all the time. And I think it's like the snakes. I've caught, I can't even, thousands of snakes over the years. I've never caught a fat snake yet. And yet in captivity, we are once a week, have a mouse. All my stuff now, I feed very little rodents to, unless it's a specific nest raider type species, like a dirt snake or something like that, that is going to go in and just eat pink baby mice. I now cycle it. I use frog's legs and chicks and quail, just because I think in the wild, and having seen the sort of prey items, it's random, it's different. Nothing is feeding specifically on mammals all the time.
No, they're picking off whatever they can find.
Exactly. And I think most species of snake are much more reptile orientated to feed in the wild. It's just for convenience for us that we're not doing it for them. So I think, when we're just giving them mammal after mammal after mammal, high fat fur, I don't think it does them any particular favours, particularly the kings and the milks. I don't believe they've got a high mammal diet at all.
No.
Um,
Not at all.
but yes, and seeing some of the rattlesnakes in situ, like the willardi or willardi, um, and the glauberei, again, the habitat wasn't what I imagined in my head before I went out there. Again, a lot cooler. Temperature drops, very hot in the daytime, but massive temperature drops at night. A lot damper um, than I imagined in my head for those particular species as well. So yeah, definitely herping should change how you keep your stuff. And I do think if you can, I'm fortunate, I'm old, I haven't got money worries or anything like that. If you can afford it, go and look where the animal lives that you particularly want to keep before you keep it.
Yeah. And I think that can that can go so far, especially as far as like feeding regimen goes. And even if you can't, things like, carpet pythons, they're very commonly kept species in the hobby.
Yeah,
But a lot of people feed your carpet pythons a large rat every 2 3 weeks,
yeah,
and I don't think that's appropriate in my humble opinion. Like
yeah,
that feeding regimen can be very detrimental.
yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and say I don't feed my carpet python rats. I do. I have lots of carpet pythons, and the majority of them eat rats. But if you research and you look at the natural diet of these things, it's a lot of everything, but it's sparing, and none of them are fat. You look into rat snakes, your local colubrids here. I find way more underweight, quote unquote underweight species, animals in the wild than I do, what I see here. So that goes to say, like, are we overfeeding? Are we feeding the wrong type of prey item? Things like Nipper, you are a Pituophis fan.
oh yes,
Yes. So Pituophis, like, I have moved much more towards multiple small prey items, small chicks, multiple small rodents. Because
yeah,
if you look at their natural history, what they are, you look at gopher snakes. Gopher snakes are called gopher snakes for a reason. They go into gopher burrows and they raid nests. They eat multiple small items at a time. Yes, Pituophis eat a lot. They eat a lot of food, but they eat a lot of small items frequently.
yeah,
These very large rats, that you feed once a week, that is not the healthiest diet
no,
for them,
no,
and I even go as far as like around here with your pine snakes, you got to look at the quail population that we have. Quail are ground nesters. They live in the ground. They stay on the ground. They nest in the ground. And I have every idea they're going into nests of these quail and obliterating the entire nest of quail that big
yeah,
when that snake is that big around, but they're
yeah,
eating 5 6 7 of them. That's why, like, if you pay attention to what you do, like whenever I feed my Pituophis, I'll give them a rat, and their bodies will be partially out of the enclosure of the tub. If I touch that, try to get them in, they push. They push against it because that's what they do. They raid a nest, and as things move, they crush it against the burrow that they're in, because that's how they're designed. Is they eat all these small prey items, and as they're eating one, they're killing the rest of them to come back and eat, these smaller prey items. So yes, they eat a lot, but they eat a lot of small stuff,
yeah.
and no matter
I,
what it may be.
the one of the healthiest snakes I've ever found in the wild, one of the most robust, just general all over health snakes we found was the Florida pine.
Yeah,
It looked amazing, absolutely amazing, beast of a snake, absolutely beautiful.
yeah,
Um, and again, not how I complete, sort of how I envisaged it, but the habitat for the pines was much damper and sandier than I thought it was going to be.
right.
But yeah, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful specimen.
Yeah. No, and that's why, like, with some of my pines, knowing that I live in some of the habitat they inhabit, and like I know how humid it gets here, but I also know how humid it gets in my room because I have a heater and it dries out. So I switched everything to a substrate that I could actually spray down and provide humidity to, give them humidity during the summer, let them be a little bit more dry during the winter, things like that. And all of that goes into, that's why again, this goes back into why I keep things that are native to me, and why I really love keeping things that are native to me, is because I live there and I see it and I know what's going on, and I can, with my collection, I can look at what's going on outside and follow that. Like people right now, your North American bluebirds, a lot of people are getting eggs already. I just pulled my stuff out of cooling because guess what? It just started getting warm here. Like all my stuff just came out of brumation, you
Yeah,
know, but that's because I'm following weather temperatures here, and not just kind of guessing and doing what I want with it. I'm following what's going on outside, and it makes
that's
it easier for me.
yeah. I completely agree. Completely agree.
So there's something to be said for really following, and even then, if you don't keep what's native to you, your weather patterns can still help you with things like carpet pythons
Oh yeah,
and it's as simple as keeping the weather. Everybody has a weather app. Get that to get the native range of what you keep and follow those weather patterns and what's going on there and try to depict that as much as possible. Again, like it's very specific for where the tower is, wherever it may be, whether it be Indonesia, Australia, whatever. Like do the best you can, and it's obviously
Gives you a
specific to that area.
general.
But yes, it gives you a general idea for the patterns of what's going on there.
100%.
Yeah. So with stuff that I know you keep, you're a big venomous keeper. I obviously you do Venom Exchange Radio, and I know you're a big pygmy guy. So what changed you with seeing pygmies in the wild to how you keep in captivity? What did anything change once you saw them in Florida versus how you do it, in captivity?
Um, Again, the habitat was a lot damper than I thought it was going to be.
It's very wet.
It is super wet. A lot of it was sort of like almost flooded, and they're up in little areas above the floodwater. So yeah, certainly a lot damper, and they were a lot smaller than the captive ones. Clearly because of line breeding and overfeeding, but the size
Right.
difference was noticeable. The ones that we saw, um, even the adults, half the size of the sort of captive bred stuff that you see in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they are really tiny.
Yeah,
I think that is a big thing. You obviously have the occasional species. Like I found it was dead, unfortunately. I literally passed the truck that hit it. It was still moving when I found it. But I found the largest pygmy rattlesnake I've ever seen in my life on a road here locally. Everybody's heard of Hunt Club Okatee
yeah,
corn snakes. I was in Hunt Club. It is local to me, and I was there, and I found the largest pygmy that I have ever
wow,
seen. I'm telling you, this thing was well over 2 feet long, about a solid yay big around. It
wow,
it may have been gravid. It was just an absolute monster of a pygmy. But it and it's one of those things that like we talk about in some of our captive keeping podcasts we talk about slow growing. Like I would bet you that animal was pushing 10 years old to get
yeah,
to that size, whereas in captivity people are getting animals up to that size in 4 years, if not less.
yeah.
you know
As
uh,
fast as possible.
yep. Just so they can breed it.
So they can breed it. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that's a big thing that goes into the captive keeping, and again, I think that's why field herping is so important. You know, to learn those types of things and see that these animals aren't nearly as big out in
yeah,
the wild.
100%.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Anything else you can add on to that before we move on?
Again, it's just I think everyone everyone changes when they go out field herping to how they keep, whether
Yeah,
they realise it or not. Everyone changes.
no
Whether
matter what you keep.
never it doesn't matter what you keep. Once you're out field and you see the natural behaviour, you will change. How and we're very fortunate at this time in the hobby with all the uptick in uh, technical stuff that we can have. Lighting has gone through the roof now. In terms of what we can reproduce in the vivarium, how anybody could keep something like a rattlesnake, a crotalus species, without UV and full spectrum is beyond me now. Once you see them in the wild and you see them basking, and you can just appreciate how much they're getting from that UV sitting out. Um, you just can't keep something like that without UV and full spectrum inside. Conversely, when I saw where the pyros were, it made me realise that there's absolutely no point having UV and, and stuff for pyros, because they are just so far underground in rock fissures and under stuff. They're not out in the daytime at all, you
Right.
know. But when you take, I mean, Eric was measuring the UV index all the time, and some of the places where we was in Utah, the amount of UV that these snakes are getting is insane.
Yeah, we've talked about that before. It's almost undeniable once you see a snake using the sunlight out in the wild to come back home and be like, "Ah, it doesn't need a light."
A hundred
Well, it
percent.
was just out there using the sun to survive and go
Yeah,
about its day, and
yeah,
it's so
hundred.
hard to go back on that once you see it.
Yeah,
And even those like more fossorial species, like your pyros, things
yeah.
like that. Even then, like just because you didn't see it using the UV, there's a thing called cryptic basking.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And a lot of species, like we love Roy Blodgett. He does a lot of very, very naturalistic keeping, and it's fantastic. And he's noticed with a lot of his tricolor hognoses is they are very terrestrial, fossorial species. But he's noticed them with captive keeping with UVB. During the times as UVB is on, they will come out, and only part, they won't be out basking under it, but parts of their bodies will be getting those UV rays for a certain time of the day.
yeah,
So it's granted, yes, a lot of them are underground a lot of the time, but at the same time, like even in rock crevices, you'll have parts of them just getting that little bit of UV coming through, because and I think a lot of that goes into the vulnerability aspect. Some species aren't going to come out and bask because that's when they're vulnerable, but they'll cryptic bask and get that little bit because they need it or want it, but it still keeps them hidden,
oh yeah,
so there's definitely something to be said for it, and if you keep things like rat snakes, I mean, it's your North American rat snakes, yellow rats, gray rats, it's undeniable that they absolutely use it,
yeah,
so that is wonderful. um so I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but overall, either locally you want to travel, whatever, if you could give one piece of advice for somebody who has never really herped, they've only kept, but they want to start. If you give them one piece of advice to start herping, what would it be?
herp your backyard first.
You're the
I
second person to say that.
Yeah,
I 1000% agree with that.
yeah. Learn your backyard. Learn how snakes bask. Learn how lizards bask. Learn, times of day to go out. Learn how weather affects stuff, and then when you're comfortable with all that, then think, right, I'm going to put all those elements into place. I'm going to go and herp somewhere else.
Yeah,
But get confident in your backyard first.
I
I
I
like that.
absolutely love that, and I fully agree. That's my biggest piece of advice, is to just get out locally. There's, and it's nothing against it, but there's some people that I feel like only herp away from their home because they think it's better, whatever. Um, and not to say that's bad. It's if you have the money and the time to do so, that's fantastic. Go check out new areas. But I think the most important thing, when you're getting into herping, is to learn your local herps, your local
Yeah,
areas. Even if you live in New York City, you can drive somewhere,
yeah, 100%.
find herps. 100%.
And bear in mind, for all your American listeners, I can herp anywhere in the world. I want to know herp the US more than anywhere. That's where I keep coming back to. So,
Yeah,
your backyard stuff is world class.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I try to remind myself, and we try to talk about it amongst our friends. Like, we got to remember that we haven't made with so many species and amphibians of reptiles and stuff across the United States, that instead of worrying so much about getting out of here, we really just need to go visit different states and tick off local lists.
Yeah, and you've got so many iconic species, you've got so many endemic species, you've got so
Yeah.
many unique species. I would much rather herp the US than a majority of other places in the world.
And it really puts it in perspective when you talk to somebody from your neck of the woods. Is like you can pretty much drive from country to country in certain areas. Am I wrong? You can drive to a
No,
tech.
once you're out of the UK and into Europe Central, in theory, you can drive from one side of Europe to the other.
Yeah. Whereas in the US, you can drive for days on end and you'll still be in the US, but you will see all types of different
Yeah,
species. Like there are things, Arizona and South Carolina and Florida, there's nothing that overlaps really. We do not have the same species at
yeah,
all. But it technically it's a long drive, but you can drive it. It's there. You're in the U.S. You don't need a passport. You can
no,
fly there for a relatively affordable amount. We have it. We have a very unique, you know, set of species here in the United States, and
yeah,
a lot of our scope is on within your state, and it's always good to start in your state, but realize that we have it pretty damn good when it comes
yeah.
to a lot of different species and being able to fly to places like Arizona and California and see something completely different than what we have here in the Southeast.
And everybody speaks the same language
Yes,
wherever
Yeah,
you go.
dude,
And that's a big thing. I
that's
mean,
yeah,
huge.
I could literally, once I'm in Europe, I could drive for an hour and it's a completely different language.
Which is insane to me. I couldn't imagine driving an hour and somebody speaks in completely different language.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible. Um, yeah, so definitely take note of that, everybody. So I know you said you have 3 species of herp to find total.
Yes.
So what again? I know you said it earlier, but what exactly are your targets, and where are you planning to go this year to find set targets?
Okay. So my first trip is in 2 weeks' time, and I'm flying out with some chums to Bulgaria. My main target is a thing called the blotch snake, which is one of the biggest colubrids in Europe, very reminiscent of Pituophis, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I've tried for it so many times; it's a real pain. It's a sort of salt marsh specialist. It feeds predominantly on wading birds and stuff like that, nesting wading birds.
Really? Wading birds.
Yeah, it's so
Wow.
you find it in like sort of river deltas and sort of flooded areas, sort of brackish water and stuff like that. So and it's kind of like an eastern bloc, so it's Bulgaria into Greece and into Turkey, that sort of area. So that's where I'm heading out for. So I've got some time looking for that. We're also going to cross the border from Bulgaria and drive into Greece and go to the Evros Delta. So we stand a chance of seeing it in the Evros Delta as well. But also in the mountains behind the Evros Delta is the Ottoman viper, which I've seen before, but my chum Trev, that I do most of my herping with, he hasn't photographed the Ottoman viper yet. So we're going to try and get the Ottoman viper as well.
nice.
And there's some other nice. I mean, I've seen them all, but there's some other nice bits in that area. There's the snake-eyed lacertid, which is a really cool little lizard. There's the leopard snake, which I think is quite popular in the hobby in the
Oh yeah.
States.
Yeah.
So they're there. What else it might be there? There's Aesculapian snakes, there's Amidites vipers, and so there's a few bits to see there. So
Nice.
that's my first trip. And then I'm flying out to the States in June. Um, so I shall fly into Vegas and then I shall meet the others and then we'll drive into Utah. And we're going for targets for that trip will be um, Crotalus concolor and Crotalus abyssus. Great. We'll be going into the Grand Canyon, trying to find the rattlesnakes there, which we couldn't get into the Grand Canyon on the last trip because of there's been some flooding and stuff. So the roads were closed and it was too cold for concolor. So hopefully we've left it a little bit later in the year. So hopefully we'll be successful with that. And then I'll come back from there. If I haven't been successful in the April trip with blotch snake, I'll be going back out to Bulgaria to try and get it again. And then in September, I'm going to do Naxos, which is a large island in the Cyclades. There's a new lizard that they've just split, so it's a lacertid. It's one of the biggest lacertids, which is now the Naxos green lizard, which is a new species. So I'm going to go and try and get some pictures of that. And then I'm going to go to Zamos, which is an island close to Turkey, and that has got the Pelagasi rock lizard on it, and that'll be my last lizard, and that'll hopefully be done.
That's so crazy.
I know. And then I'm tempted to do a quick Canary Islands trip because there's a couple of lizards on the Canary Islands. They're not in Europe, but I'm still trying to do all the Canary Islands as well to see them. And then after that, it'll all be the US, I think, for the foreseeable, because I want to tick off the rattlesnakes, and I've got quite a few rattlesnakes left to see.
Well,
Heck yeah.
you definitely got to hit us up when you're in the Southeast.
Oh, 100%.
I'll wherever you got to go, as long as it's within.
Well, I need to come back to Florida because
Yeah.
we saw Eastern Diamondback, but we're not counting it because it'd been hit by a car. So although it was dying, it's horrible. But I want to see a fully grown Eastern Diamondback. That is really high on my list.
Whenever you make that trip, definitely let us know.
100%.
I'll make time for it. 100%.
That'd be cool.
Sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
That. Awesome. Well, that was a fantastic, answer for that one. You got a lot going on, man. I love the travels. I've never traveled outside of the U.S. for herping, but I try to go pretty much wherever I can. At least here in the Southeast, definitely want to go to the Southwest here.
When you think though, I'm flying to Bulgaria.
Yeah,
that's a 4-hour flight. Well, you can do a 4-hour flight and still be inside the US.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt. A 4-hour flight is just to Arizona.
Yeah, exactly.
That's for us here, and we're hoping. Me and Sky are talking about trying to possibly make that happen this year.
I'm definitely going in September for sure.
Well, Arizona.
If you're going,
phenomenal.
If you're going, Sky, I'll figure it out. And
I skipped out last year, so I got to go this year.
Yeah.
So.
And you say, when are you going to Las Vegas and Utah area?
It's in June.
June, nice, fantastic. Well, our final question, at least that we have written down for the evening, that we like to ask everybody: what is your craziest, scariest story that you have from the field? Whether it be coming across some crazy person in the middle of nowhere or getting bit, almost getting bit in a bad scenario, give us a crazy story.
Yeah, I've done all of those. I mean, in Florida, they tried to rob us in Florida in the middle of nowhere in a big truck. That was good. My closest I've ever come to being bitten by a serious venomous snake was in Montenegro in the mountains.
Okay.
Nearest hospital was probably a 4 or 5 hour drive away, and we are at altitude in the mountains, and I saw a phenomenally beautiful Amidites viper, and I had short gloves on, and I did the most stupid thing. It was just disappearing down a hole, and I grabbed the towel, and then I realised what I was doing too late, and it span and it come back and bit me, and it caught the edge of the top of the glove.
Whew.
Oh,
And I dropped the snake, and I just sat there. And my mate came out, and I was just white, just sat there. I said, "What's the matter?" I was so stupid because an Amidites viper is a naughty bite,
yeah.
and it's just the fact that I weigh. I'm not sure you do it differently. I weigh 84 kilos, which is I don't know what that is in pounds. That's 13 and a half stone. So I'm reasonably heavy. But for them to get me off the side of a mountain back to a car and then drive all that way to get to a hospital would have just been a really shit day out. So that was bad. I mean, I've been held at gunpoint a couple of times.
What?
Yeah, me and some friends, we was in I think Calabria in Italy in the middle of the night, shining lights, looking for frogs, and people thought we were sheep rustling. So they called the Carabinieri, which is like the local. It's weird. In Europe, you have different levels of police. So you have municipal police, and then you have higher than more military style police. The
Yeah.
Carabinieri, they turn up, they're all black uniforms, loads of guns and all that lot. So they held us at
Wow.
gunpoint, and then we had to explain that we were just looking for frogs. We weren't stealing anything.
We're just here for the frogs, mate.
But the funny thing is, as soon as you start showing them pictures on your camera, they're
Yeah.
so into it, and they're like, "Oh, you must come over here. There's frogs over here." And if you tried looking over there, they really
Wow.
once they know that you're not a criminal. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah. I've had some. I had a terrible fall. I was in Switzerland, and I was with other herpers, but I was a long way from them. I was on my own, and I'm walking along in the mountains on this very, very narrow path, and I leant on a tree to have a rest, and the tree was rotten, and it snapped, and I fell off the edge,
Oh man.
and I fell, and it was a really steep angle, and I fell about 30 feet, and I was just going over and over and over, and come to a rest against a rock, and I had a big rucksack on, and it stopped me smashing my head, which was really lucky. I was properly battered, and I just lay there for like ages, just looking up, just thinking this is ridiculous. And then I had to sort of get up and then pick all my kit up, which was spread over ages. But that's another thing. You're in the middle of nowhere at that point. Oh, that's the other thing. Kit wise, walkie talkies invaluable
Yeah.
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 We've,
That's another
we've
one.
heard
because
that.
on this occasion, it was a long while before I found anybody else, and I was pretty shaken up. So that was rubbish. But going back to your original thing about flies, malaria. Everyone gets malaria. I
Not everybody gets malaria, Nipper.
okay. I was in Borneo, herping in Borneo, which is
Wow.
a great place to go if you get a chance. Unfortunately, I got malaria, and I was climbing. You've got Kota Kinabalu is the big mountain there, and it is big. I think it's bigger than any mountains you've got in the US. It's a big mountain, and the bottom of it is really really good for frogs. And then you've got all the pit vipers as you get higher up, but when you get to the top, it's quite barren. But I wanted to climb it, and I do a lot of mountaineering. I was quite fit mountaineering wise at the time, but as we're getting nearer the top, I started to feel really really ill. And it got to the stage where I was like, in the end, taking 2 or 3 steps and having to rest, and then 2 or 3 steps and having to rest. I couldn't breathe. And then I couldn't see, my eyesight started to fail. And I thought, this is bollocks. And I thought I had altitude sickness, which is rubbish. And I managed to get to the top, and there's a hut at the top. So I got there, and it got dark, and I laid there, and I took some Diamox, which is an anti altitude drug, which speeds your heart up. And I still felt shit. And then as soon as it got light, I managed to, with the person I was with, get all the way down to the bottom. And I was really fortunate. There was a park ranger at the bottom, and they stuck me in the back of a truck, and we got out the park. And then I got a taxi back to the hotel. And I went to bed thinking I'll be fine. And then I woke up, I said to the person I was with, "Oh, I feel much better." And she went, "You've been asleep for 24 hours." I'd lost a day. I said, "Oh, I feel fine now." And I got up and then I collapsed and they took my temperature and it was 104.
Oh
Uh,
my.
and then I started to hallucinate and they're trying to put me in a car to take me to a hospital. And I thinking they're trying to kidnap me. So I'm trying to fight them off. But I was weak as anything by then. It took me through the jungle, went to this hospital, super basic hospital. No one spoke English at all. Um,
Jeez.
and I'm on a trolley, and I can still remember on the trolley being pushed through, looking at the lights going through, and there was one doctor that spoke English, and it was an American lady that was doing a sabbatical out there, and she spoke to the person I was with and said, "We're going to give him these drugs. If his temperature starts going down within 2 hours, he'll live. If it doesn't, he's probably not going to make it," which is not a great thing to hear. Um,
No.
Oh my.
but my temperature went down. Yeah, long story short, I'm fine. I'm indestructible. Um,
I could see that.
but yeah, I had to stay out there for longer than I meant to because I wasn't allowed to fly back. And it knocked me for six. I'd say it was about 3 months before I was fully back to normal again.
Jeez
Wow.
Louise.
That is that is insane, man.
That's wild.
But that's what you got to go through to get some of these lifers, man. You
Oh,
know,
I saw some cool
All
snakes.
part of the adventure.
you saw some awesome stuff along the way, right?
Yeah, 100%. In the chat, just quickly,
Yeah.
I don't know who KB104 is, but he's exactly right. Timon nevadensis is the largest lizard in Europe, not lepidus.
Very good.
Nice.
Well, just real quick, because we're getting long here. We're at the 2.5 hour mark. I do just want to, I meant to pull this up earlier, but I do want to show some of Nipper's Instagram here. This one specifically, Nipper, this is one of your adders.
Oh yeah, that's local to me. That was one of our silver bullet adders. Yeah.
Yeah, there's several here. So I mostly just wanted to show off some of Nipper's finds and his fantastic
Awesome.
photography.
Yeah,
Oh, look
This
at that.
awesome.
is
Photography.
that's the
Florida pine.
yeah, absolutely wonderful specimen. I loved hearing you guys talk about that. And here's one of your soft shells. I take it from Florida as well.
Yeah,
Melanistic one.
melanistic soft shell.
Heck
Beautiful.
yeah.
That's fantastic. So I take it you have captive keeping as well as
Yeah.
field grouping stuff on here.
Yeah, it's mainly field herping, but sometimes there's some captive stuff in there.
That's
Little oak toad. Beautiful.
Yeah, I was about to say that looks like an oak toad from Florida. I take it
Yeah.
that when you and Phil were on
Yeah.
your amphibian kick out there.
You know it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, beautiful pygmy there that you guys found.
Heck yeah.
Along with there's another
Look
picture
at
of
that.
that
That's just
snake.
beautiful snake. That's
Such
a
What
beautiful pine.
what a specimen! Oh
You're
my
so
God.
lucky to have found that too, man. Only one I found was flopping, freshly hit, and I had to finish it
Oh.
off, and it was just haven't had the chance to see another one since.
This is one I saw earlier that I wanted to ask you
Looks like
about.
Candoya, man.
That
That's
is-
that's an Amadites. So that's Bulgaria. So I shall hopefully see those in a few weeks' time again.
That is just incredible.
Yeah, proper naughty bite off of those.
I bet.
That is just amazing. So obviously there's a lot to go through here. I wanted to pick through it more, but man, we got into some stories and I couldn't stop. So definitely just wanted to show Nipper's Instagram here and all the high quality photos that he takes. And if you are not following him, you absolutely need to be. You are missing out if you don't. These are amazing photos.
Oh, little cat snake from Crete.
That's cool.
That is beautiful.
Super cool.
So definitely check out his Instagram if you're not, because you are by far missing out.
Look at the pyro.
I was about to say, is this the pyro that you guys found? And
that's one of them. Yeah, look at that.
Look at the black on that thing.
So dark. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Such a good picture too. That is wonderful.
That's one of my favourite snakes I've ever found.
Yeah.
I say I've ever
And
seen.
is this one of the ones that Dustin found that were
Yeah.
mating?
The
Okay.
breeding pair, yeah.
That is incredible. Dustin talked about that. This is one of my favorite pictures you have on here.
Oh,
Look at that.
So
beautiful.
nice.
Great Basin, little Latosis, is it?
Yes, that's the Great Basin.
Yeah.
Wonderful picture. Absolutely amazing. I love the eyes of all of our crotalids here. Just
Oh, look at the speck
Just-
though.
oh yeah. Oh man.
Look at that. What a
That
beautiful animal.
is what it so actually our buddy Gabe was in the chat and he actually has some specs and I
Nice.
got to interact with them, on a very safe level, of course. And of his captive keeping. And they made me want them way too much. They are just incredible. And look at this. I mean,
Oh, blacktails.
come on.
That's another Latosis.
Oh, is it a Great Basin?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great piece.
Oh, dang! I thought that was a blacktail.
And look at the contrast between in this animal. Man, what a picture!
Jeez Louise!
What a photograph! And where was that taken, Nipper? Was that Utah or Arizona?
That's Utah. I can't remember the area, but that's Utah. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need specifics. We're just
Yeah.
gonna say Utah. We don't want to give
Yeah.
anything away. And I mean, just everything. Look at this guy.
Little red spotted toad.
Oh
Cute.
my
Fun.
goodness.
Adorable.
That is amazing. So, but yeah, I just wanted to shout out Nipper's Instagram.
Look at the sidewinder.
Oh yeah, what a picture. Oh my goodness.
Those fangs, man.
Yeah, cute.
That is amazing. I feel like that's one of the most iconic southwestern species.
I was so stoked to
out
see
there.
that in the wild. I kept them, but see them in the wild, it's just phenomenal. Just to see them scooching along on the sand is fantastic.
Oh yeah, that locomotion is too good.
And here's that other pyro. Oh my goodness.
Look at the black banded on that. It's insane.
So much. But yeah, if you want to get inspired to get out into the field, I mean, it's not all reptiles, y'all. Look at this guy. Oh my goodness.
How cool is that?
Little Lanza salamander from Italy.
Italy. Okay. That is that's amazing.
So cool looking.
That's an awesome picture too. So definitely, and these are some of the adders that Nipper sees here local to him.
That's my local. Yeah.
That looks a lot like the picture that we got sent in.
Yeah, the Vipera. They are just incredible. Honestly, those are pretty much at the top. One of the top species for out of the U.S. herps that I would just absolutely love to find. Just incredible. So if you're not following Nipper, you're missing out. Definitely check it out. And it's very simple to find. Nipper Reed on Instagram. So definitely check him out. Let's help him get him over 1,000.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Come on, you guys. What are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, you're severely missing out, especially when it comes to field herping. But he's got his captive stuff on here as well. So don't sleep. Get on it.
Get on it.
Yep. So, well, this has by far been our longest episode so far, and this has been an absolute
It's been a lovely time, fellas.
Yeah,
it's great to hear about all your stories and information.
Chat to you all night.
Yeah, I don't want to stop personally, but I know a lot of people don't want a 3-hour podcast, so we will definitely be having you on again at some point.
Hopefully, at the end of the year, we can hear about.
I'll come back if I finish the list. I'll come back. I'll talk you through it.
Yes, we want to hear the end of the list, and at the end of the year, yeah, that's actually a great idea, Sky. at the end of the year, we'll get you back on and see
That'd
how
be
your
perfect.
year went and
Yeah,
all that. And this has been fantastic. So, with that said, Nipper, we're going to throw you backstage for a few minutes while we close out a little bit and go over some quick housekeeping, and we'll be back in just a second. All right.
grand.
All
Thank you,
right. Thank you
sir.
so much, man.
Pleasure. Cheers, Labs.
Yes, sir. All right. Wow. That's all I can say for episode 5. This has been, I knew it was going to be great, but oh my God, this exceeded every expectation that I had had.
Wealth of knowledge, man. It's
Yes.
all about experience. So that's when you hear someone that's been through that much, it's all you can do is sit there and absorb it.
Yeah. He's done a lot, been through a lot, been all over the world. And it was just, this was a fantastic episode. We can't thank Nipper enough for coming on. This was exactly why I wanted to do this one early on.
He's got me inspired to go hit
Yeah.
Europe and go see some friends and go hurt more. So I'm
And
stoked
that
for that.
and that's the thing, man. You never think about herping Europe until you talk to somebody who's herped all over Europe. Then you're
Yeah,
like, I'm missing out big
very
time.
much so.
You know? So big thanks to Nipper. But real quick, so we don't keep anybody too much longer. Again, your herping apparel. You got 3 days left. Get your hats. We have a variety of hat colors. Your shirts, they come in the green. That's all we're offering is the green. But they got the FT on the front, Flippin Tin logo on the back that you see up here in the top middle. That's on the back of the shirts. So hit us up. We hook you up. They're $30 each shipping. So $30 for hat, $30 for shirt. That is shipped price. That will not change. So definitely hit us up if you got anything. And I think again, we're gonna keep the challenge the same for get
Yeah,
you in a
yeah.
new area, whether it's local or a new state, new part of your county, new county in your state, whatever it may be. Get somewhere new and write us in what you find out and
Yeah.
what you
Slap
find
us with a
out.
bunch of write ins again. That was fun.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun. So definitely hit us up. Let us know. Again, we didn't have a lot last week, so we want to get some more, get y'all out there and we'll guilt y'all into it this time. So
Yeah.
again, but thank you everybody that stuck with us through this one. This has been a fun one, a long one, but very, very informational. Again, please follow Nipper on Instagram. He is Nipper Reed on Instagram, and he is also a part of Venom Exchange Radio. Please check out that podcast. It is, I said it multiple times, it's one of my favorite podcasts out there right now. It is absolutely fantastic. He does it with our good friend Phil Wolf
The
of
wolf.
the Nephorus Initiative. I can't talk. And Snakes and Stogies, who he does with our good friend Justin Smith. So definitely check out all of those, all the things they're doing, and stay in touch with what's going on. So
Yeah. Hit him with your sign out, dog.
yeah. Oh yeah. I gotta look back at it real quick, make sure I say it right, because this is, we're trying to abide by this. We've said it, a couple episodes. I missed one, but I'm a
I feel
sticky.
like I did it today, dude. I had a chance to break out for like an hour really quick when
Yep.
Gabe was sending us those rainbow pics, and I was having no luck, but I was standing next to a tree right next to the swamp. The birds were chirping. A blue heron had just flew off, and I watched it. And I told myself a year ago today I was stuck at my day job wishing I could be in this position. So I just sat there for a second and absorbed everything. And I looked around and I sat there and I listened and I just was present for a second. And I tried to, just be thankful that I'm in my position that we're in.
So with that said, look and you will see, read and you will learn, think and you will know. And that is a quote from the Rattlesnakes of North America book. And that is something we try to live by in this podcast. So remember those. And thank you, everybody who tuned in the live chat and you're listening. You could be listening to anybody, but you're listening to us, and we truly appreciate it.
Get out there and flip some tin, you guys.
Flip some tin, baby. Thank y'all.
Peace.